Eating ASMR. What's up, Ignis? We're playing some more Mahoyo again. Did I read chapter 2? No. I don't think I did. Well, I have. Well, we'll read it again. Alright, let me mute my mic for a second. I'm gonna open a drink, so my throat doesn't get all dry. Alright. Got a nice beverage and some snacks. Hopefully this can be a longer stream. Sojiro let out a listless sigh and stared down at the winter schoolyard. How's it going? I knew you'd be here. It's like, yes, he's finally streaming this game again. I think we read this chapter, but I'm not sure. I forgot. It's been a while. It was unusual for him to get lost in his own thoughts like this, yet here he was. This month in the corner of the chalkboard had changed to December. The month in the corner of the chalkboard had changed to December. Okay, yeah. It was hard to believe that it had already been 10 days since he transferred to the school. Last vestiges of autumn had been wiped away with the turning of the calendar. And the trees in the schoolyard were nearly barren, the ground below them hidden beneath a mat of fallen leaves. Fourth period was classics, and behind the podium at the front of the room, the elderly teacher was droning on about some topic or another. Though Sojiro had finally grown accustomed to the classroom, he was still a long way off from catching up to the contents of the classes. Since he lacked the foundation gained over years of schooling, every single class was a matter of life. Oh yeah, I remember reading this. We finished chapter 1.5. So basically, if I remember correctly, Sojiro... Okay, so it was just some, like, Sojiro had his job, then, Aoko talking to Alice, and then talking about, like, two like, outsiders, basically. And then the third part of the chapter was, of 1.5, was Alice taking care of these, like, puppets, like, completely destroying them with London Bridge, maybe, or the troll, whatever. And then the last part was just Aoko and Sojiro helping out at the church. Even if he couldn't grasp their contents right now, he intended on at least to memorize everything so he can make up a use of it in the future. Therefore, yeah, I think we read this chapter before, but I think I need to catch up. Normally he would scold himself for losing focus when he should be busy, but... Don't worry, I'm snacking on some jerky right now. I'm just gonna finish it real quick. Am I live on Twitch? Oh yeah, I am. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make himself concentrate. But what was the source of this distraction? Compared to the mountains, winter in the city was remarkably mild, and even working every day wasn't that hard. Since he wasn't particularly more exhausted than anybody else, that couldn't be the reason. I feel like he reminds me a lot of like Emiya. Just works like a couple part-time jobs. Like, Jesus. But this guy works like multiple jobs. At least like 3. Jesus, is rent that expensive? Nor was it because the class itself was tedious. Though his classmates always complained about how boring it was, he didn't share their feelings. In fact, he rather enjoyed the time he spent here. The problem wasn't a mental one either. The more he tried to figure out what was wrong, the more depressed he felt. What am I doing? This isn't like me. He scolded himself and turned to face the blackboard. The rhythmic slipping of the chalk lured him towards sleep, and somehow he managed to resist. I know, and food, but it can't be that expensive, right? That school has to have some sort of financial aid for him. That's just stupid. Still, the fact remained that he simply couldn't concentrate. He sighed heavily, and tried to sort himself out. He didn't really want to think about it, but well, it must have been because of the unbelievable scene he had witnessed last night. At the chime marking into the class, the old teacher bowed and left. Almost immediately, all 30 students sprang up from their desks. The clock that had slowed to a crawl around 11:30 was now read 12 o'clock sharp. Oh yeah, that's his buddy. That's his bro from the part-time job. I forgot his name. A laid-back atmosphere spread through the room. It was the start of lunchtime, the high point of school life, and a brief respite from the stiff formality of classes. The food served in Misaki High's cafeteria was notoriously awful. Trust me, I bet it's still 10 times better than the food they serve in the United States public school system. Complaints at such negligence... Oh, Kinomi. Complaints that such negligence was unacceptable at a private school went unheeded, and some peculiar dishes clogged the menu day after day. The thighs, glorious thighs. Yes, we have a man of culture here. Between the high prices and lackluster taste, it was only natural that the box lunch faction had become the dominating power within the student body. Class 2C was no exception. The boys roughly scooted their desks together into a single long dining table, while the girls elegantly split off into cliques of 2 or 3 and started chatting amongst themselves. Neither side wasted even a second of their precious lunch. Their actions might have been different, but they both had the same goal. Only Soja remained at his desk, dumbfounded by the flurry of movement happening around him. It had already been 10 days since he transferred into his class, and he still couldn't keep up. Yo, Shizuki, over here. My boy. A voice called out from the boys' table by the windows. That was this guy, Kinomi. Yeah, Kinomi Hosuke was waving at Sojiro while leaning back in his chair, so precariously that he looked like he would crash to the floor at any moment. His foul mouth and gutlessness often drew criticism from the rest of the class, but thanks to his frank and open personality, nobody could say they truly disliked him. Yeah, so he's like that annoying pest. I get it. I totally can relate. Feels bad, man. Though they did worry that he might be a little too frank at times. Come on, let's eat. Tabeyo. Alright. Cool. Like, devour. I got a whole pile of spring rolls as leftovers from the restaurant yesterday. Unfortunately, when my father saw them, he started going off about can't waste things people gave me, so that's all I've got. In short, he was begging for someone to take pity on him and give him a proper lunch. He and Sojiro worked at the same restaurant and had known each other from that even before they met in class. Yeah, I know, we read the chapter 1.5. It was also the reason that Sojiro is now intimately familiar with the term love-hate relationship. Yeah, get over here, Shizuki. Today's the long-awaited canned food festival, so we're finally doing it, huh? Maybe we should think about this. Shut up, it's gonna be crazy fun. You see, I mean, it might be imitation, but there's still all the canned crab you can eat. It's not some lousy mackerel, that's for sure. Like sabat, mackerel. Really? Sweet, count me in. Is there enough corned beef for everyone, or is it first come, first serve? You dolt, that's not something you can just knock back one after another on your own. Only the first serving is any good. If Shizuki's in, that drops the number of cats per person to 7. Thank God. By the way, Kinomi, what's with your boxed lunch? It looks tougher than the tin cans. Usually the boys would pass time making fun of each other's lunches, but today they were reunited. An untold number of canned goods were stacked in a pyramid in the middle of the table. Apparently, they'd all been excavated from the storeroom of a certain student's house, and the expiration dates scribbled out with a marker. Oh shit. Russian roulette. Does everyone have their can openers ready? Hell. Eating is hell, but so are leftovers. We fearless warriors shall conquer these metal demons, even if it means missing 5th period and dying. Possibly dying of food poisoning. Or maybe some disease. I don't know. Oh, and a big thank you to our sponsors, the Downtown McCoy Company and Zongshan Market. Oh, just cannon already. The boys rallied together and hoisted their weapons into the air. Come on, Shizuki, dig in. There are plenty of can openers. That's what you're worried about. Then I tell you to say I'm not interested in being your food taster. Besides, I'm pretty sure at least half of those are expired. Come on, man, don't be a drag. The sudden outburst of excitement was incredibly suspicious. It was obvious they were trying to reel in another victim. Still, their enthusiasm was infectious, and Sojiro found himself standing up to join them almost involuntarily. But then, hey, not so fast. How about, Shizuki, want to ditch those guys and eat with us? Another party made a bid for his attention. This time it was a girl with short hair that beautifully framed her features. And no art for her, feels bad, man. Pepe hands. If you recall correctly, she had invited him to join the track team a few days ago. Sorry, but I'd rather not, if that's alright. He answered her with a pained look on his face. The girl's table was covered in an assortment of fruits he had never even seen before. What's wrong? Do you hate papaya or something? Don't worry, we got mango too, and coconut, and it's supposed to be a secret, but we got hands on a Yubari King melon. The other members of the group pumped their fists. Of the fruit group pumped their fists. Wait, what's a coconut? Is it edible? Sweet mango, if there's any left over, can I have some? You idiots, meat is all you need. Eating crap like that just makes you weak. The sudden flurry of voices was overwhelming. All I know for sure is that nothing good will happen either way. But even if he said that deep down, he knew he wouldn't be able to refuse either of them. This wasn't the first time a tendency to always meekly accept favors from others had caused him to freeze up, unable to make a decision. As he wasn't accustomed to the human altruism, he didn't know when it was appropriate to turn it down. In the midst of his confusion, somebody slapped him on the shoulder. Okay. Just ignore them. If you go along with every idiot here every time they ask you to do something, you'll just end up ruining your life. It's okay to reject people, you know. And you lot, stop trying to lead this poor lost lamb astray, okay? An appropriately threatening voice boomed out from behind him and echoed through the classroom. Reading, Monk S. Vice President. He turned around to see a boy standing about the head taller than him. His swept back hair was messy yet stylish, and despite his chiseled features, his piercing eyes are filled with contempt. He was a flawlessly handsome young man, capable of captivating a room with his presence alone, the exact opposite of the perpetual dopey-looking Sojiro. By all accounts, he should have been met with fear and respect, however. Well, if it isn't the Vice President himself, come to grace us with his presence. I thought you said you were going to set up camp in the cafeteria so you didn't have to look at our stupid faces anymore. And are you lost, Your Highness? This here is the slums where us idiots gather. You should be off sipping tea at the cafe with the beauties from Class A. Yeesh. Is he here for Shizuki again? Jeez, First Lady Aoko and now His Highness Tobimaru. I wonder if he's in trouble or something. Huh, but he always follows up the school regulations to a T. In fact, those are the only rules he doesn't break. Wait a minute, does that mean... Skiji, don't tell me. You really switched teams after Aozaki rejected you? Yeesh. This is a much cooler version of Shinji. Shinji. He's not really a douche like Shinji is, though. At least from what I've read so far. No spoilerino, by the way. It was just a good bit of good-natured ribbing, but okay. Sojiro still felt a twang of pity for the target of their abuse. On the other hand, the vice president himself didn't show any reaction at all. He simply glanced at the troublemakers with a bored look and raised his voice. I see you guys are as lively as ever. If you got that much energy to spare, joining the Special Winter Cleaning Corps should be no trouble at all. Come on. As of right now, only one person in the entire school has volunteered. Having everyone in Class 2C on board would be a huge load off me and Aozaki's shoulders. It was a thundering bellow, totally at odds with his clean-cut features. A hush fell over the classroom. Part of it was awe toward the vice president, but mostly it was because he had uttered those forbidden words, the Special Winter Cleaning Corps. Signing up meant forfeiting part of your winter break in order to clean the old school building, which had been utterly neglected by the previous 2 student councils, and the mountainous forest in the rear yard. In short, it was torture masquerading as a school activity. It would probably take 3 whole days to finish the job, and it wouldn't even have an impact on grades. In the end, it was simply thankless volunteer work for the student council. The fact that they had found even a single person willing to participate was already nothing short of a miracle. Yeah, I definitely read this chapter. But it's been such a long time, I may as well try to read it again. I know I read this one now. Oh no, we're too weak for that kind of work, so we'll just go eat in the corner now, okay? Yeah, us too. We're anemic. If we don't eat this fruit, we'll die, or something. And we already have plans for winter breaks, so... Every student but one scrambled away to safety. Good, lunchtime should be nice and quiet anyway. I don't want to hear any more complaints about the second-year class. That's noisier than a bunch of first-year punks, you morons. Got that? The dispersing mob hung their heads, their spirits broken. Sojiro turned toward them, but... Hey, hang back for a second, Sojiro. I want to talk to you. He was forcibly stopped by a hand on his shoulder. Damn it, where does the student council get off barging into people's houses and preaching at them about table manners? As soon as the vice president's back was turned, Kinomi cursed him out under his breath. Well, isn't this nice? Looks like we found our second volunteer. Better get your affairs in order before winter break, Kinomi. You're in for some fun. Apparently, the vice president had good ears because he gave Hosuke a thumbs up and went in for the kill. What are you going on about? It's a voluntary event, right? Even if you're the vice president, you can't force people to participate. The problem child of Class 2C laughed giddily. That was true, up until yesterday. Thanks to a proposal by the president, which the school accepted, as of today, all members of the student council have the authority to nominate students for participation. In particular, nominations made by the president and the vice president are absolute. You can still refuse, of course, but there's no telling what Aozaki might do. And I won't be able to stop her. Are you prepared for that? Oh shit. Oh shit. You're screwed, Kinomi. You're screwed. Wait a minute, that's basically a death sentence. Tyranny! This is tyranny! You're screwed. Leaving Kinomi's horrified wails behind them, the vice president and Sojiro exited the classroom. You sure got it rough, don't you, Sojiro? And sure you got a lot of free time, Vice President. And you sure have a lot of free time, Vice President. Messed that one up. Two boys spoke up as they entered the empty student council room. Misaki High School had 2 student council rooms. The first was a large room built specifically for the student council, while a second was a material room that used to be a preparatory office for the mathematics department. Currently they were in the latter. The walls were lined with densely packed shelves, making the already narrow room seem even more cramped than it actually was. Rather than the student council room, it might be better to call it a private refuge. They sat down across from each other. Yeah, they have like their food, and like Tobimaro has his like shitty energy bar, if I remember correctly, and then Sojiro has like his fancy lunch that's actually really good. Tsukiji Tobimaru, son of the Misaki High School board chairman and vice president of the student council. He was a second-year student, just like Sojiro, whom he had first met a little over a week ago when the task of looking after the new transfer student was unceremoniously dumped on him by the student council president. I told you not to call me that. As much as it pains me to say, I'm just the president's dog after all. His words were self-deprecating, but for some reason he didn't really seem dissatisfied. He pulled a snack out of his pocket and took a reluctant bite. The 100-calorie energy bar's convenience was counterbalanced by its flavor, but he was doing his best to choke it down. I see, but you shouldn't say that, Tobimaru. Sergio had a serious expression on his face. Huh? Why not? Oh, we haven't gotten to like the... We have gotten to like one action scene in 1.5, but it was like a small one. It was pretty hype though. You just shouldn't. It's a bad comparison because dogs are scary. Even though you grew up in the mountains, you're scared of dogs. I'm scared of most animals, but dogs are in a league of their own. There's something worse than a pack of wild dogs. Not only are they fast, they're incredibly tenacious. As long as they're breathing, they'll chase you no matter where you run. He unwrapped his lunch as he spoke. Inside the bright green cloth were 3 beautiful triangular onigiri. You should not say onigiri in an English version. You should say, jelly-filled donuts. Oh my god, those jelly-filled donuts are amazing. I'm shocked. What do you mean? No, sorry, it's just the first time I've seen such a otherworldly jelly-filled donuts. I was speechless. You lost me. I'm praising you, dummy. Phrases that could be interpreted. To the best I think he's like, I forgot his name. Oh, Ryudoji, I think, or like the student council president from Fate's Day Night. He kind of reminds me of him. Not Shinji. Definitely not Shinji. Phrases that could be interpreted in multiple ways always fell flat on Sojiro. He didn't have the sensitivity to break down and euphemisms and subtle sarcasm. Nevertheless, he rarely asked for clarification like he did just now. Tobimaru suspected he had a tendency to only follow up on things he was personally invested in. Issei, yeah, that was his name. He kind of reminds me of him. I'm like, for kids, why are you dumb? By the way, is that any good? It looks like a hardened stick of flour. Sojiro was staring at the energy bar. Curiosity glimmered in his eyes. It's not terrible, but it's not good either. Here, you can try it if you want. Humans should never hold themselves back, especially when it comes to life's 3 great desires. When one easy motion, Tobimaru finished off the bar in his hand, put another down on the table, and picked up an onigiri. It was rude, but Sojiro overlooked it and tried to bite the energy bar in front of him. It sort of tastes like dirt. That's true. It's an example, I suppose it's an example of what life would be without any joy. Sojiro glimaced, but dutifully continued eating. Not only was he interested in the unknown, he also made a point to always finish what he started. You don't have to finish it all at once, you know. The entire point is that you eat it on the go. Well, that and the fact that even if it doesn't taste that great, it's at least edible, and the flavor never changes. Anyway, setting that aside, how are you doing? Are you adjusting well? Yes, thanks to you and Aozaki, of course. Tobimaru inadvertently looked away, unable to stomach such a carefree smile. Though Sojiro seemed absent-minded, he was capable of making some stunningly honest expressions. For someone as selfish as him, it was a little toxic. So that's why Aozaki is always avoiding him, huh? He grumbled to himself and bit into the onigiri he'd taken. The cooled rice was surprisingly tender. Hey, wait a minute. The only one looking out for you has been me, right? The only thing Aozaki did was come up to me on the day you transferred to tell me that you're annoying and I should just keep an eye on you. That's it. Why are you getting so upset? It's just that the one protecting you from the shadows this whole time has been me. I'm the one who's been breaking my back, while she just sits in the student council room digging up dirt on people. It's not... He realized how ridiculous he was being and cut himself off. Sojiro was right. He didn't have any reason to be angry. Well, whatever. If she hadn't done that, he wouldn't be, we wouldn't be here today. Hey, what do you think? Why do you think she puts this role off onto me? Do you know? Because you're the vice president, I guess. Toyomari's beautiful face darkened. Hey now, do you think it's normal for the vice president of the student council to spend all his time on a single transfer student? Damn it. You can just ask yourself when you get the chance. Then you'll understand what she's really like. He took another bite of the onigiri, muttering curses to himself. It was like a work of the art, dry yet at the same time fresh and tender. What subtlety! This wasn't just rice crudely mashed into a ball, but the creation of a master craftsman. Always with the food, Nasu. Always with the food. I can imagine Nasu in real life being like a foodie, like a glutton. He secretly just wants to be savored, eating everything. And this seasoning, it's amazing. The subtle flavor of soy sauce seeping out from the filling inside doesn't just make you want to eat more. It makes it so that eating more is all you can think about. Oh. J-Mari, you know you're saying that all out loud, right? Sorry, I lost myself for a minute. Hey Soji, you guys tell me, what filling did you use in this? Can you supposedly ask what the unexpected flavor you detected? I'm snacking, Monka S. Oh yeah, I didn't know this, but Waivers VA also does Giovanni or whatever, and Giorno Giovanna, and JoJo. I did not realize that. I just realized that today. Incidentally, so far he'd only been nibbling around the outer edges, and had not yet reached the center. Oh, it's Grasshopper. No fucking way. He doubled over coughing. He anticipated Sojo's cooking with ingredients common in the mountains instead of seafood, but grasshoppers? Shit, why didn't you warn me before I started eating? And it was so delicious too. That was a joke. They stared at each other for a moment. Here, I'll show you. Waver Velvet VA. Daisuke Namikawa. Yep. Well, I guess like in a different, I guess not the anime version, but in the games. So it's kind of weird. So yeah, he has voiced him in like the games which weren't animated yet. That was confusing. I didn't know he voiced both adult and child Waver. That's kind of weird. Yeah, he's right here. Oh yeah, and then Inishin. So misleading, Papega. Oh wait, whoops, wrong one. No, really, it's actually salmon. Of course it's not a grasshopper. Salmon's delicious, man. You know the Japanese actually didn't have salmon as sushi for a while, like a very long time. Like they thought it was like very unhealthy. Like it had parasites and shit apparently. Until like they had finally had some people try it and they said it was like really good. And so eventually it became like an actual thing. If I remember correctly. Oh, right, good. I can't believe I fell for that. Solomon's delicious mocha-s. After all, there's nowhere to get quality grasshopper in the city. Sojo said something worrisome, but he decided to ignore it. What's up, Sarum? Still, it was a pretty harsh for a joke. I almost threw up, you know. That wasn't like you. Bitch, you almost debated the fuck out of me. Wait, paying for distros, Monka asked? What is this, Windows? Wait, who the fuck actually pays for a distro? Dying Ubuntu's pain. Why did you download Ubuntu? Oh, wait. Oh my god. Chokushin, oh my god. Oh my god. Oh. What's up, Teikoku? Domosu. Still, that was pretty harsh for a joke. I almost threw up, you know. That wasn't like you. It was because you insulted Aozaki, my waifu. Get a good distro like Manjaro. Yeesh, people who use Ubuntu are like so vanilla. Sojiro closed his eyes and suddenly chewed on his onigiri. He said it. He really said it. Tobimaro was dumbfounded. Yeah, I can't let that one slide. You're saying you're taking revenge on me for bad-mouthing Aozaki? Nom nom nom. Nom nom nom. His silent protest said it all. Tobimaro looked like he had struck by lightning. What the hell? Don't tell me you like her. That's it, isn't it? Hey, wake up and answer me, damn it. Sorry. Alcohol only likes Shiki. Feels bad, man. He flung himself out of the chair and started violently shaking Sojiro by the shoulders. Sojiro opened his eyes despite himself. That's right, you don't know about the tragedy that happened last year. If you did, you wouldn't be entertaining such destructive desire. I think you may have misunderstood something. But that can wait. First, what is this tragedy you mentioned? I like how, like, like it's static, but like the way they transition between scenes is that it's kind of like you can kind of like imagine the animation actually happening, because like you can see like when he goes down, you can actually see like, and it makes a sound effect. You actually can like pretty much like imagine like animating him like just plopping right back in the seat, which is exactly what's happening. I really like that about this VN. Tomimaro came to his senses with a start. After thinking about what to do for a bit, he plopped back down into his seat. Fine, I don't usually get like to gossip like this, but I guess I can make an exception just this once. He reassured his consciousness by telling himself it was all for the sake of Sojiro's bright future. It was a story from when Aozaki was still a first-year student, so last year. Back then, we had all just entered high school, so nobody knew what her personality was like yet. We only knew she was incredibly beautiful. Of course, the guys were ecstatic. But little did they know that their excitement would soon be for an entirely different reason. By April or May, the school had completely descended into chaos. Divisions like upper and lower classmen no longer existed. Guys were picking each other off, forming alliances, and even getting into duels. Yu-Gi-Oh! Poggers? Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels? It was crazy, just getting close to Aozaki was a struggle. I don't get it, why did things turn out like that? It's because 100 guys were chasing after the same girl. If they all had lunch with her one by one, it would have taken months. So they were secretly feeding to see who would get to ask her out. Well, it's fine if you don't understand. It's just a story about a bunch of losers after all. The important part is what came next. The survivors of that pointless tournament went about trying to win Aozaki over. Now, she might not look it, but she's the type that can't just ignore people's sincerity. Or maybe I should say, courage? At any rate, she rejected all the guys who approached her as politely as she could. However, among them was one particular third year who misunderstood her courtesy. He was convinced he still had a chance and kept coming on to her over and over again. Monka S. Probably he was a little messed up in the head. Looking back on it now, that's the only explanation. Incidentally, Tomimaro decided to hide the fact that this third-year student was actually the previous student council president. Monka S. Apparently, though, he didn't just intrude on her at school, he went as far as following her home. I guess that pushed her over the edge, because after that, she snapped and rejected him in a way that I'm not entirely comfortable repeating out loud. Oh! Yeet! Jesus! Jesus. Please hit me with those thighs, though. Knowing that, as a result, not only did the student in question voluntarily transfer to another school, he ran away from Misaki entirely, while Aozaki was forced to spend a month under house arrest. The whole deal is known as the Bloody Town Hall incident. I have. But I probably need to, like, review it over. Like, because it's been like a month since I've last played this, so. If you want to know more, ask Aozaki. Or don't. If you want to live. If you really feel the need to hear about it, go to the journalism club. Their president is something of a daredevil. He'll be happy to tell you the whole story. Tomimaro, it sort of feels like you're being intentionally vague. You got me. What can I say? Some things are scary even to the board chairman's son. I at least want to graduate high school safely. The last thing I need is some trauma that'll make me freak out every time I see a school's female uniform. Sojiro tilted his head to the side. He didn't understand what Tomimaro was trying to say at all. Anyway, setting that aside, what exactly is that you see in Aozaki? She's a waifu. She's a wafer. He tilted his head again, the other side this time. Hey, are you sure you actually like her? If you're just saying that your heart starts pounding when you see her, that's not necessarily love. Terror can cause that too. No matter how much of an airhead you are, you must have a reason, right? He tilted his head even more. He tilts his head completely 180 degrees, Kappa. Tomimaro still seemed to be misunderstanding something, but he decided to leave it alone for now. There were too many things he himself didn't understand about his feelings for Aoko. You're right. It's strange. I don't even know that well. It's only natural. Aside from the day they met, they haven't talked to each other at school even once. Every time he tried, she would quickly make herself scarce. And while it was true they had worked together at the church just the other Sunday, I read that part. Even that was only idle chit-chat on the way there and back. But Torimaru, things aren't exactly, there are things you don't know, either. Wait, let me just... Okay, we can't do archive. Sometimes I feel somebody's eyes on me, and when I turn around, she's standing there worrying about whether or not I'll make a mistake. Maybe you're right. Maybe she just happened to see me in the hallway and wanted to make sure I didn't cause a scene. Maybe she wishes she could pass by without paying me any attention at all. At the very least, the fact that she stops means her concern is real. And more importantly, the part of Aozaki has really, that part of Aozaki has really saved me. His words were calm and earnest. Torimaru couldn't help but sigh in regret. If only he hadn't heard that, he could have just introduced Sojiro to a nice proper schoolgirl and let him live out the rest of his high school days in peace. Normally he wouldn't go so far for somebody else. If somebody's useful, exploit them. If they aren't, don't get involved. That was his creed. And yet, though he would gain absolutely nothing from doing so, he wanted to help Sojiro out, because he's a bro. He is a retarded Chad, okay? It wasn't like he was completely ignorant of friendship, of course. He simply wasn't blessed with very many people he could call friends. So if Sojiro truly liked Aoko, then as his friend there was no way he could do something as unrefined as trying to change his mind. Man, I guess it's true what they say, love really doesn't need a reason. That's not true, there is one reason. When I first saw her, I thought she was pretty. Oh. Torimaru slumped his shoulders. That's it, after all you're telling me you just like her for her body? Isn't it good to admire pretty things? I don't think it's so strange to judge someone's personality based off the outward appearance they went through so much trouble to present. That is true. That is totally true. Something about that reasoning seemed off, but at the same time, Torimaru couldn't argue with it. Fine, I give up. It's none of my business who you go after anyway. Now then. Throughout this entire exchange, Torimaru failed to grasp one crucial thing. Namely, what Shizuki Sojiro felt for Aozaki Aoko was nothing more than ordinary kindness. He didn't have any particular deep affection for her, nor did he harbor notions of becoming her lover. That this simple misunderstanding would eventually lead to a calamity of epic proportions was something that nobody could have predicted. But let me give you one piece of advice. Just because Aozaki fights with somebody doesn't mean she hates him. And on the flip side, just because she's kind to someone doesn't mean she likes him. I'm a good example of that. He spoke with a heavy sigh, but as he was remembering some distant heartbreak. Oh, I see. So what happened? Basically, Aozaki used to be really full of herself, and I tried to hit her. Oh, Monka S. It happened about half a year ago in the summer. We had been working together on the student council for a year at that point, so I had started to see her more as a comrade in arms than as a woman. So one day without thinking, I took a swing at her. Now, I don't mean to brag, but I got the hip rotation of a clean-up hitter. I was so certain it would be my victory. Then you got absolutely destroyed. He trailed off with a far look in his eyes. At any rate, the next day I came to the student council room fully prepared to be treated as an enemy, but she was acting the same as always. And ever since then, we've been working together as president and vice president. So, Sojiro Saito Torimaru wrapped up his story. Then with complete and utter self-confidence. So to sum it up, you're just boasting about your love life, right? He completely missed the point. Were you even listening? How did you get that from that story? This was a decisive event that made it totally impossible for me to see her as a woman. Really? I got it wrong? A dissatisfied what a waste slipped from his lips. Torimaru sadly revisited his opinion of the boy. He seemed simple, but there was something about him he just couldn't put his finger on. Anyway, I was trying to say that Aozaki's preferences aren't normal. Doing things for her won't make her like you, and doing things she dislikes won't make her hate you. Sojiro said he'd keep it in mind as he glanced at the clock. They had been talking for a long time now, and lunch was almost over. So is that everything you wanted to say? I didn't have anything to say from the start. He briefly wondered why Tobimaru even brought him here, but quickly shook it off. There are more pressing matters. Okay then, can you stick around for a bit longer? There's something I wanted to ask you about. Tobimaru sat up in his chair. He'd never seen his friend wear such a serious expression before. Oh yeah, so when he asked him about, like, if I remember correctly, he asked him about, like, he saw something weird. And then, like, and then Tobimaru's like, what the fuck is that? Setting aside his half-eating onigiri, Sojiro cleared his throat. It's about last night, he spoke solemnly. And with as much detail as he could muster, began to recite what he had seen the night before. Shizuki, are you there? Aozaki Aoko called in the classroom before entering, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. It was already 12:50. Lunch would soon be drawing to a close, but Class 2C was as lively as ever. Though she had no business being here, she casually walked right in without waiting for a reply. As she did, the students, who until then had been boisterous as baby birds begging for food, conspicuously fell silent and returned to their seats. Nobody wants to deal with her. What's with that response? She clicked her tongue and surveyed the room. The student she was looking for wasn't there. Since he didn't really stand out much, she thought he might be lurking in a corner somewhere, out of sight. But it seemed that wasn't the case. Hey, Arisato, where's Shizuki? He should be in seat number 12. Her voice was calm and professional. I think he went with His Highness a little while ago. The student she called on was shocked that she knew his name. By the way, you might think that the reason the other students referred to Tsukiji Tobimaru as His Highness was because he was the board chairman's son, but it actually stemmed from his prince-like behavior. Apparently, Tobimaru himself is rather fond of that name. Tobimaru, he and Shizuki are getting along. She was shocked. Monka S, he's getting along with somebody? That country boy? Okay. And the students of Class 2C were shocked that she was shocked. We never actually seen him be so friendly with another guy before. Well, there's Kinomi, but he's an idiot, so it doesn't count. That's right, His Highness treated him pretty coldly at first, but by the third day they were bickering like old friends. You can't just help but warm up to Shizuki. He might be weird, but he's a cool guy. But he's a good guy. Yeah, Sojiro's great. As they regained their composure, the students once again began to murmur and chat amongst themselves. Aoko stood there, listening for a bit, then abruptly turned around and left with a quick goodbye. Back in the student council room, Sojiro had finished telling the story. He seemed rather pleased with himself. Across the table, however, Tobimaru was frowning. So what do you think? He fished for feedback. In response, Tobimaru massaged his forehead with his fingertips and made a face somewhere between anger and consternation. Hey, Soji, you aren't making fun of me, right? You aren't that crafty. That's mean. I'm pretty clever, you know. His clumsy retort just confirmed Tobimaru's suspicions. In which case, there are only two possible conclusions. Either what he said had really happened, or he was so exhausted he was starting to hallucinate. Personally, Tobimaru hoped it was the latter. But Sojiro, speaking frankly, I like you. A human that doesn't lie isn't human. That makes you a perfect match for a misanthrope like me. But if you start spouting off nonsense like that, who am I going to rely on for lunch from now on? Yeah. Sorry. It's like a little burp. If I start spouting off nonsense like that, who am I going to rely on for lunch from now on? Can't you just eat in the cafeteria? Tobimaru's scowl deepened. Fine, I'll say it clearly. What you saw was hallucination. If you ask me, your eyes are probably playing tricks on you, but if that doesn't satisfy you, I can introduce you to a good psychiatrist. You really think so? Okay, that settles it then. Tobimaru's words might seem insulting, but Sojiro accepted them calmly. I figured it was something like that. Still, it's the city. That sort of thing might actually be possible here, so I had to check. Visibly relieved, he finished off his last onigiri and nearly folded up the cloth they had been wrapped in. Hey, what are you saying? Do you really think it was normal for people in the city to do things like breathe fire or stretch their arms like rubber? Well, I wouldn't say normal, but I thought it might not be anything special either. This place is full of impossible things that don't exist in the mountains. That's why I thought there might be people that like that too. The serious look on Sojiro's face made Tobimaru keenly aware of the enormous culture gap between them. Deep in the mountains with no electricity, the night had remained unchanged since ancient times. Leading from the far actors, humans were mere bit players, just another part of nature. In conditions like that, it was no surprise that people like this boy would still exist. Of course, the idea of children growing up pure and untainted had a certain appeal to it. Perhaps the population was so low there was no need to develop civilization. Or perhaps it was simply a pristine world where access to knowledge was not required. At any rate, it was a bit paradoxical, but it was precisely because everything about life in the city seemed impossible to him that he ended up under the impression that it was a place where anything could happen. Don't worry, there's no doubt that the city is full of all sorts of shady people, but none of them are secretly wizards, I promise. Keck W, dude. Nice meme. If you say so. Somehow, you didn't seem totally convinced. Press X to doubt. Certainly, there had been parts of his story that Tobimaru couldn't quite come to terms with either. True or not, the event he had described was disturbing. Anyway, for now, let's assume everything you said really happened. That means a student from our school killed somebody in the park last night, and on top of that, both the perpetrator and the victim were abnormal, to say the least. One of them must have had a flamethrower, while the other had some sort of naginata, I guess, another long-bladed weapon. Sojiro nodded along as he listened to Tobimaru talk. Hearing it from somebody else's mouth, he could see how the people might think he was pulling their leg. I got a drink. It's getting a little dry. That's a pretty crazy story. Sojiro, club clean. Are you messing with me? No, not at all. The people like that exist in the city, right? In which case, it's just like you said. I must have been dreaming. Lately, balancing work and exams has been pretty tough, so... Winter break was fast approaching, and finals were only a week away. For Sojiro, they were our most fearsome adversary. Since I don't have a good foundation, I have to study twice as much as everyone else just to keep up, and you're bound to do a nervous breakdown if you do nothing but study all the time. First of all, you don't do a nervous breakdown, you have one. And you're right, burning the candle at both ends isn't good for you. Why don't you cut back on work, at least before exams? I've been trying, but a lot of people have been taking year-end vacations, and they're always asking me to cover for them. He shrugged his shoulders helplessly. And the way he was talking, he's obviously been busy. Even if it wasn't going crazy, his lack of sleep might have caused him to slip into a daydream, although technically it happened in the middle of the night. Sounds like you're having a hard time, Sojiro. Yeah, living in the city is pretty draining. He nodded gravely. However, the fact that he didn't look even the slightest bit tired was troubling. I'm a little amazed you never complained about it. Are you the stoic type or something? It's just that worries aren't painful, that's all. Sojiro answered, then glanced at the wall clock. Lunch was about to end. Tobimaru, the time. Oh, is it late already? Go ahead and go back without me. I still got things to do. Sojiro stared at Tobimaru, who was making the life of a student council member is tough sort of gesture. He had the eyes of somebody looking at a piece of art without comprehending its value. It must be nice being able to skip class whenever you want. Isn't that the sort of negligence you said you hate? That's a misunderstanding. Did I tell you already? My absences aren't negligence, they're they're privilege. The student council president, the vice president stood up empathetically. He seemed upset. However, the transfer student merely gazed at him, wholly unimpressed. Hey, don't tell me you still understand even after I painstakingly explained it to you. Fine, sit down and listen up, Soji. Even though I was gifted with talent and fortune far exceeding normal people and worked diligently every day without resting, I'll be reduced to nothing once I graduate from this place. It's awful. I can only make use of my family status for one more crummy little year. What on earth is inevitable about that? Normally, the privilege of riding on your parents' coattails is something you can last for your entire life, but I only get it for 3 measly years. So it would be a waste not to take advantage of it while I had the chance. God damn, it pisses me off. The idea of being on the same level as a bunch of morons, worrying about money. I swear, I wouldn't be able to make it in the adult world. I won't be able to make it in the adult world. The envy and jealousy swirling around there will swallow up my fragile heart for sure. It had to have been a joke, but as far as Sojiro could tell, he was being completely serious. Thinking it must be nice to be able to say things like that, with a straight face, he simply took Tobimaru at his word. After all, if he said himself, he must believe it. However, if you want to keep using your preference privilege so badly, all you have to do is stay in school, right? Just say the word, I'll be happy to help you out. Oh shit. Oh shit, Aoko with the burn. Jesus. As to blow away his spineless acquiescence, the door to the student council room flew open. Cool words effortlessly shattered the warm atmosphere. Wait, it's actually a word, sovereign. Like, I thought it doesn't have an N. No, that's right. I'm an idiot. I just don't know how to spell. There have been some typos, though, I've seen. I'll pass. Dreams are something you should accomplish on your own, I think. I see. In that case, don't get so excited about such embarrassing things. I could hear you all the way out in the hallway, Mr. Vice President. 1 second. Alright. Much better. I had to burp. Speaking without an ounce of hesitation, the girl Aozaki Aoko entered the student council room. Her long, dark hair was slightly disheveled. Probably due to the fact that she had run all the way here. She overlooked the still seating Sojiro and stared at the vice president who had been passionately ranting until just a moment ago. Good luck, Tobimaru. Sojiro quietly stood up and started to leave. I had no idea you were so heartless. Tobimaru grumbled in front of Aoko. But if I don't get back to class soon, I'll be late. I see. It's exactly what I'm talking about. He cut himself off there. Aoko, who until then had been focused entirely on him, briefly shifted her gaze towards Sojiro. You're not the only one in places to be, you know. I swear, it feels like I'm always having to pick up after you. It wasn't a complaint. It was simply her honest opinion. Are you saying you're here for Sojiro? Don't worry, I've got business with you too, bitch. Her eyes were shining with an almost murderous glint. It was subtly different from the sullen gaze that Tobimaru had grown accustomed to. He didn't know why, but she seemed to be in an unusually bad mood today. Shizuki, which would you prefer, running or swimming? She asked abruptly. Sojiro frowned silently and answered, either one is fine. No, you have to pick one. Then swimming, I guess. What's this all about? You still haven't signed up for any clubs. It was a terribly succinct answer, but I didn't leave any room to object. You read the school regulations, right? All students must participate in club activities, without exception. Honestly, I think it's stupid, but rules are rules. That's ridiculous. I don't have time for that. I know. Another terse reply. She was always fairly merciless, but Tobimaru couldn't help but think she was trying unusually hard to avoid getting drawn into conversation with Sojiro. The two stared at each other wordlessly. Gee. Even Tobimaru, sitting on the sidelines, didn't dare to breathe. I see. Finally, Sojiro broke the silence. I thought you understood, Aozaki. No, you definitely do understand. Yeah, that's what's strong about you. Sojiro stood up. He passed by Aoko and casually walked to the door. So should I start tomorrow? If you're okay with that. With a forced smile that said he'd try his best, he disappeared into the hallway. Probably end of the chapter, right? End of this part. Oh, no? Alright. Watching that series of events play out before him, Tobimaru felt a profound sense of admiration for Sojiro. Judging from her behavior, Aoko was truly trying to make him angry. However, in response to her provocation, he had simply given her an evasive answer. At least Tobimaru had no idea what he was trying to say, and left without any sign of losing his temper. Even Sojiro must have felt some measure of discontent being treated like that. The fact he didn't show it made Tobimaru feel like he had just seen a performance of the highest order. Hey, President, what do you mean by that? What's strong? He looked at Aoko and there's confusion written on his face. She was glaring intently at the wall, absolutely motionless. Aozaki? No response. Hey, President. Kaicho. Aozaki. Aoko-sama. Aoko-jo-sama. Hey, are you listening to me? Aozaki Aoko. Shut the hell up and don't call me that. Urusai. Her furious shout echoed through the throughout the student council room. It was a beautiful, deafening sound. Tobimaru's fervent speech from earlier paled in comparison. You're one to talk, he shouted back at her reflectively. Maybe his ears were still ringing, or maybe he was just the type to answer a shout with a shout. No wonder you can't get a boyfriend, so you finally snapped out of it. I could hear you just fine, thanks. I was ignoring you because you were annoying, and shutting you up seemed like too much trouble. Why, are you calling me a mosquito or something? Of course not. A mosquito would be easier to get along with. Oh! Jesus. Jesus, Aoko, why are you such a fucking savage? Jesus. Yeesh. Oh, what's that supposed to mean? I mean, no matter what we say, we'll never see eye to eye. In which case, talking is meaningless, right? It's practically the same as dating. Oh, Jesus. What a realist. One second again. Oof. Apparently, as far as Aoko was concerned, lovers were just people who wasted their days whispering sweet nothings in each other's ears. The real question was, how much is meaningful conversation worth to you? But whatever. You're being awfully harsh, don't you think? Just a little. This is a situation where I can afford to be courteous. What a strange thing to say. For the past years, I can't recall you being courteous even once. It was when you weren't around. I see, that's it. You're still mad about what happened back then, aren't you? That was the only thing you could be talking about. Namely, the incident occurred in the student council room that summer. What are you talking about? That's ancient history. You shouldn't be wasting memory on something so trivial. You got so few enough brain cells as... Oh my god, why is she such a fucking savage? Feels bad, man. Weird champ. As they talked, the bloodthirsty aura she was emitting had slowly begun to fade, and her normally sharp eyes took on a rarely seen softness. Probably Tsukiji Tobimaru was the only person who had been ever witnessed this side of her at school. Sorry, I want to forget it. Really. It's just that Soji spouted some nonsense earlier that dredged it up. Shit, now that I think about it, this is even the same room. It's even the same room, isn't it? Despite his grumbling, he had a wistful, almost nostalgic look on his face. Alka, on the other hand, was scowling. Wait a minute. You told him about that? Well, yeah, but only the part where I tried to punch you for mocking my candidacy for student council president and calling me a born follower. She sighed in relief, apparently glad she hadn't heard the end of the story. Though the reason was a mystery, even to herself. That really was a great punch. I didn't even see it coming. My body just reacted instinctively. By the way, did I really say all that stuff? You did, and not only that, you took advantage of me while I was in the nurse's office and forced me to become your vice president. Jesus. He had served on the very person who beat him to the election ever since. Literally. It's alright. It's alright, though. I was never cut out for the job of president anyway. Vice president suits me just fine. If I had won, I probably would have ended up turning into my father. You always did pride yourself on not doing things halfway. Though I kind of wanted to see you totally devote yourself to presidency. You'd have ended up as an honors student before you realized what had happened. Don't even joke about that. Having one wolf in sheep's clothing here is no more than enough. He waved his arms to shoo her away. This sort of frank and open-hearted quarreling, unsuited for a man and a woman, was more or less a daily occurrence for them. So, why did you tell him? Huh? What happened here 6 months ago? Why did you tell him? Oh, that? It was nothing really. He was just saying something ridiculous about... He caught himself. Revealing Sojiro's feelings would have been breaking a tactic agreement between men, even if it was just his own misunderstanding. Anyway, what's with your attitude earlier? Do you have a grudge against Sojiro or something? Please, I'm not some princess that held on to grudge for more than a week. He almost chimed in that she was more like a queen, but bit his tongue. He learned enough in the last 2 years to know that that would be a bad idea. So if you don't have a grudge, then why are you trying to pick a fight with him? I mean, he's a little weird, but he's about as nice as they come. Is there a way to screenshot this? No. This needs to become a Discord emote. I think I already have it. I already put it as a Discord emote before. No, I didn't. There you go. I have a screenshot now. Sorry, I had to have that. Hey, why are you acting like you just saw a termite? Don't worry about it. I was just thinking about how disgusting it was to hear those words coming from your mouth. Well, whatever. So he's a good guy. Great, that makes him the perfect person to pick a fight with. After all, if nobody else will hate him, I got no choice but to do it myself, right? With a satisfied nod, she pulled herself together. You got no choice. He couldn't follow her logic at all. He was used to her train of thought jumping around like this, but even so, hating Sojiro for no reason was just too cruel. Images of that utterly harmless face flashed in his mind, and he spoke without thinking. I have the smug Alco one too. But he likes you. Can you really say you hate him knowing that? Oh shit. It had taken him 2 minutes to break his vow in his silence. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, forget I said anything. He snapped his mouth shut, but he realized it was already too late. There was no taking it back. All he could do now is pray it went over well. That's fine. We all have our likes and dislikes. But they're all that's all they are. Even if you say he wants to get along with me, I just can't stand him. Totally unemotional. Faced with that cool response, an uncharacteristic fury ignited in Tobimara's chest. I'm not talking about friendship or likes or dislikes. Sojiro said he's absolutely in love with you. Soji, He said he's... I don't think he said that. He shouted, a serious look on his face. Anako stared back at him blandly in open-mouthed surprise. It was the expression of someone who had dropped their wallet hours earlier, but only just now realized it was missing. And in that brief instant, where they still couldn't believe this was happening to them of all people. And indeed, it was only for an instant. So, she answered coldly as if it wasn't anything important. As if she was asking on what on earth it had to do with her. So, are you a demon or something? Here, I'll say it again, in case you didn't hear me the first time. He had given up even paying lip service for his spoken promise with Sojiro, and was firing back with everything he had. God. This chicken noodle soup does not want to stay down, Monka S. And, like, burping it. Yeah, I had, like, a chicken noodle soup for lunch, and I don't think it was very good. Don't care, not interested. Or maybe it's because I'm not really feeling that great, whatever. Oh. She earnestly cut him down. He tried to come up with a fitting name for the fiend in front of him, for the sake of all boys at school, but still bravely nursing unrequited loves, but there was nothing that even began to do them justice. Wait, did I miss something? Okay. I see, so that's why you told him that story. Yeah, there's a smug one. Who knew His Highness could be so considerate? You must have spilled the beans on those nasty rumors about me, right? A sinister smile crept across her face. Terumari repented to God, whoever he was, for ever bringing up her love life. Considering it's you, that was a good call. I'll praise you for that. So why don't you tell me everything you said? Okay. He really wished she'd stop hiding her thirst for blood behind a smile. I only mentioned your masterpiece in that incident, in the incident that happened in here. She seemed satisfied by his timid answer. Good. Sometimes that sort of gossip can be useful. It scares away annoying people, but it'll be troublesome if you spread around thoughtlessly. So watch yourself from now on, okay? Her syrupy, sweet smile sent shivers down his spine. If it had been written down, there definitely would have been a heart at the end of her sentence. Whatever. So whether she's angry or happy, Aozaki starts talking cute when her emotions are running high. He found out something new today, that was useless to him right now. Don't worry, I value my life, so I'm done flapping my gums. Still, Aozaki, do you seriously hate Sojiro? He knew full well it was a topic you should avoid at all costs, yet boldly forged ahead. Occasionally the friendship between men was more beautiful than pearls. Well, it's not like as simple as I don't like him, so I hate him. Honestly, I don't even understand it myself. Maybe that's the problem. She hesitated a bit before answering, probably for Togimara's benefit. She gave it a proper thought instead of replying immediately. Even he wouldn't be able to complain. I see. In that case, I'm done. After all, it's just a purely emotional issue. Neither of you have a rational reason for the way you feel, so there's nothing I can do to help. That would be the end of it. He looked up at the ceiling and silently apologized to Sojiro. However, it seemed his final words had piqued Aoko's interest. Wait a minute, what do you mean just now? Wait, what would he say? Wow, her almost cheerful tone earlier had vanished. Terumari answered lightheartedly, oblivious to the change. Oh no, it's just that he said something about not knowing the reason he likes you either. Oh wait, but what he meant is that he didn't have a reason. I think anyway, it was something like that. Since he didn't believe it when Sojiro said he liked her for her looks, he simply left that part out. He didn't have a reason. Monka S, she's pissed. Run, boy. Even though I told him all those rumors about you, it was useless. He kept going on about how you're really worried about him. It meant such a big help, honestly. I'm not even comfortable repeating it. All I know for sure is, unlike all the other guys, even after hearing those rumors, he didn't show the slightest indication of backing down. He finally noticed a shift in Aoko's demeanor. She was glaring at the wall like it had murdered her family. After what felt like an eternity, she spoke. What the hell? I feel like I've heard this all somewhere before. She ground her teeth audibly, blinded by rage. It seemed that her hatred was finally boiling over. I feel like Aoko is just like a more triggered version of Rin. But also better looking. Torimaru turned to the heavens in despair. Sorry, Sojiro. I think I got you in trouble again. I understand a little better now what it is I don't like about him. Torimaru looked away as to say, I don't want to hear it. Go bother somebody else. But she ignored him and continued in a quiet, curse-like voice. It's his attitude. It reminds me of someone I hate. Like the way he treats everyone as if he's everyone treats him as if he was such a great guy. The way he always seems strangely unsteady, or especially the way every little thing he does gets on my nerves. That last part just sounded like a random venting. He idly checked the time. And naturally it was already past 1 o'clock. I get it, you can stop now, sorry I brought it up. So what was that business you had with me? Though, just so you know, class has already started. Huh? What do you mean, class? When did... The bell rang way back when you're staring a hole at the wall after Soji left. Is it really okay for you to skip 5th period, President? Of course it's not okay. Why did you say something? She shouted while pulling Tobimaru's tie on the verge of tears. In response, he raised his arms in mock surrender. It was the composure only afforded to a winner. Considering this is my revenge for saying that even a mosquito would be more elegant than me, I hope you learned your lesson, demon. Next time you better think twice before you trample on a man's purity. So you're holding petty grudges as usual, but you know you're supposed to repay words with words, you rat. With a yank, she cinched the tie around his neck. She laughed as her reaction was only making his victory all the sweeter. Hey, everyone knows you're headed for remedial classes and classics. And I don't even need to tell you what Class A's 5th period is, right? Old Lady Fujishiro's gonna hate you even more after this. Mr. Fujishiro is one of the school's longest-serving teachers, and we go without saying, the one in charge of classics. Come on, if you got time to rake my tie around, you better be using it to rush back to your classroom. Since I'm feeling generous, I won't even try to stop you. Damn it, getting jerked around by someone like you. Die already. She straightened his tie even further, mercilessly crushing his windpipe. True to her word, his life started to flash before his eyes. Hey, wait, at this rate, I'm really gonna croak. You can still make it if you leave now, you know. It's only counted as an absence if you're more than 10 minutes late. Her eyes darted around the clock. It's currently 1:07. The distance between the second floor council room and the third floor Class A was just short enough that she could just barely make it if she ran the entire way. You got lucky, Tobimaru. She hit him with the last parting shot. The fact you couldn't tell if she was joking or not was slightly unnerving, to say the least. Stick around a bit after school. I really do have a favor to ask you. She was already halfway out the room by the time the words left her mouth. Finally alone, Tobimaru closed the door and locked it, and sat back down. Jesus, never boring with her, that's for sure. He leaned back to the creaky folded chair and sighed. The sky outside the window was bright and pleasant. But in the winter, sunlight weakened early. It wouldn't be long now before the sun's strength faded, and this heaterless student council room gradually began to chill. Somehow, all the sensible equipment had ended up in the main student council room, so there was no choice but to get used to the cold. It'd be great if this weather could last forever, though the forecast said it'd be cloudy again soon. After a vaguely suggestive monologue, his thoughts turned to Sojiro. Clouds or sunshine, which one suited him best. In the end, he couldn't come up with an answer. Was that it? Yep. After school, Sojiro went straight to work without making any detours. Though he had properly informed the school of his jobs at the Chinese restaurant and the fish market and Misaki shopping district, there were even more he was keeping under wraps, not just because he was worried about having too many, but because the jobs itself were apparently less than legal. Monka S. Today's workplace was a prime example. The pachinko parlor near Yashirogi Station. That's not illegal. He changed out of his school clothes into the shop's black tuxedo employee-like uniform and got to work sweeping outside the building. Yashirogi was the place of Misaki City, and the area near the station was packed with commercial buildings and bustling shopping arcades. Where people gathered, so too did the things they produced. An optimist would say it was joy and laughter. A pragmatist would say it was money and commerce. And realists would say it's just a lot of garbage. No matter how much local government worked to build the cleaner Yashirogi, they couldn't defy that basic rule, a rule that went double for this particular kind of establishment. The very nature of the business attracted all sorts of riffraff and rabble, which meant it was less than necessary to clean up the storefront several times a day. And so Sojiro stood outside in the winter cold, sweeping up cigarette butts and picking up discarded flyers, and throwing away empty cans. Something about it must remind him of life in the mountains, because he finished the work up cheerfully and without delay. I'm gonna move around the chat, because it's kind of blocking some of the text. Let's just do that. That might be a little bit better. After giving the building's parameter a quick once-over, make sure everything was in order, he went back inside where it was warm. Overwhelmed by the dazzling light sounds and choking on the stench of tobacco in the air, he cut through the main floor and headed toward... This is exactly how it is in pachinko parlors in Japan. It's exactly like this, dude. It's very loud, it's very bright, and it smells like shit. The main floor and headed to the office. You can, like... I can't imagine working in there. You must make a lot of money. Yeah, I think the second one's probably Alice is what he's referring to. The first one being Alco, the second one being Alice, and the third being Sojiro. Something along those lines. Manager, I'm done cleaning outside. Good job, let's see. Next, could you go check on the customer on Unit 40 on the second floor? My gut says she's cheating. The manager was a good-natured former office worker. However, the reason he had hired Sojiro, who was obviously still a student, wasn't because he was moved by the sight of a young man making his way in the world alone or anything sappy like that. It was simply because all of his other employees had intimidating faces, and he wanted to have at least one person on hand who was actually capable of putting people at ease. Are you sure? I still haven't cleaned out the bathrooms. It's fine, it's fine. Now this lady's parked herself right in the camera's blind spot, so I can't get any proof from here. So, you've had a 100% rate, since you had a 100% success rate spotting this sort of thing so far, I want you to take a look and tell me what you think. Sojiro nodded and put away the cleaning equipment, and started making his way to the second floor. This place was a quintessential two-story pachinko parlor. It was basically a community-oriented establishment. Contents drained content to train the locals of their money little by little without relying on exploitative rules and regulations. But even if that was the management's intention, customers came in all shapes and sizes. Some came just to play for fun, while others were pro gamblers who lived off their winnings, and there are even those who aimed to make it easy money through illicit means. In particular, by using a device that had become prevalent in the mid-80s, they could access the game's machine circuitry from inside and disrupt its programming and making it incredibly easy to hit the so-called 777 jackpot. Naturally, even if the management would prefer to deny entry to such people outright, they couldn't just turn away potential customers without hard evidence. In the service industry, innocent until proven guilty was an ironclad rule. As a result, all they could do was punish those they caught red-handed. However, Sojiro wasn't privy to any of that. All he knew is that they were dishonest cheaters and a nuisance to management. He went upstairs. Compared to below, the racket of the cable, radio, and game machines were more subdued. There were 100 units on the first floor and over 80 on the second, although there were empty seats here, and it was a pretty good turnout for the evening. He walked to the center aisle where Unit 40 was located and nonchalantly rested against the wall. True to the manager's suspicions, there was a customer showingly hitting the jackpot in fever mode. Oh, I wonder who that is. Somehow he knew she was playing fair the instant he saw her. He still wasn't entirely clear on what made somebody a pro, but if it meant being special, then this woman was definitely the real deal. Her good luck was almost palpable. Basking in the attention of the customers around her, she silently turned the handle again and again. Outwardly, she looked to be several years older than himself. Her green one-piece dress hugged her figure in all the right places, and her slim, stocking-clad legs were crossed seductively. More than good gambler, she had the elegance of a model posing for a painting. Short, dark hair with a red tinge framed a pair of stylish glasses and scarlet lips. Does anyone recognize this? This VM's pretty good. Are we gonna get the whole thing, or is it just gonna be? No, it's just the bottom. Frankly speaking, she didn't belong here. There were already 4 large containers of balls stacked at her feet, and she showed no signs of slowing down. Looking bored, she took a drag off the long cigarette between her slender porcelain fingers. When I streamed yesterday, she was there. We did see Alice. She seems somehow familiar. The second the thought popped in his head, the eyes behind the glasses turned to the wall and saw him. Monka S. A chill ran down his spine. He clamped his head over his mouth to keep himself from screaming. That person from yesterday. He turned tail and fled to the stairs, driven by a baseless instinct. All he could think about was getting out of this place as quickly as possible. However, no matter how much he wanted he couldn't just leave without saying anything. At the very least, he had to check with his boss first. Manager, I'm going home early. Don't worry, the person on the second floor is fine. Finally desperate not to panic, he crammed his school uniform into a paper bag and bolted out from the front door. Jesus. Yeet. He dashed through the streets of Yashirugi, already thick with shadows of night due to the cloudy weather, and headed toward the station. Shooting up the long flight of stairs like an arrow, he nimbly whipped his commuter pass on his wallet and hurried through the ticket gate. Inside, throngs of people were standing, walking, and talking. Oh yeah. So this is totally off topic, but apparently some like ramen shop in Japan completely like banned all gaijin because of the coronavirus, and it was really, you know what's even funny is that the restaurant faced criticism not from the foreigners but from the Japanese people themselves. Like, Japanese people were pretty angry that they would just ban foreigners from their shop, because it made absolutely no sense, because, you know, foreigners could just infect the Japanese people. It's not like Japanese people were totally immune, and yeah, they kind of saw it as like kind of racist. And so I think he eventually changed it, but there was it definitely did not bring good light to that shop. Maybe I can find the article. I think it's just one shop. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was just one shop, but he had a lot of that shop had a lot of criticism. Yeah, Tokyo Ramen Restaurant won't allow foreigners because of the coronavirus. Ueno Sanji, a ramen restaurant in Tokyo, is only allowing Japanese customers due to COVID-19 concerns. The owner claims that this is not discrimination, but his duty to protect his family, his employees, and his loyal customers. There have been 75,000 cases of people infected with coronavirus in China, followed by 104 in South Korea, and another 887 in Japan. Internationally, the coronavirus has led to incidents of anti-Asian discrimination and xenophobia. However, the same is also happening within Asia toward Chinese people. No Chinese allowed. 本日より、コロナウイルスの Oh wait, whoops. There you go. This is the guy. From today on, from today, due to the coronavirus, from today on, Japanese ori to narimasu. It's gonna be Japanese only to narimasu. 私には、家族、for me, the family, the employees, Sanji Yankee. What the hell is Sanji Yankee? Oh, his loyal customers. Janki. Sanji Janki. Oh, oops. What shit? Mamoran nakereba ikenai sekinin ga arimasu. I think sekinin, I think that's the name. Sekin. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my god, I'm a fucking master Japanese guy. See, master in Japanese right here. To return today as countermeasures of the coronavirus. This restaurant is Japanese only. I have responsibility to protect my family and Sanji junkies. Okay, yeah. Please understand this is not discrimination. Yeah, totally is. On Twitter, people reply in Japanese. This was in fact discrimination and even hate speech. Others point out the virus didn't pay attention to nationality. Yeah, it is true. That is true. If a Japanese guy was infected with the coronavirus and you put him in, it would still be just as bad. There's nothing stopping that. Considering that Japan has the third most cases in the world of the virus, Japanese nationals infected the coronavirus. With Japanese nationals infected with the coronavirus, Unasanji proclamation seems especially odd. Wrote one Twitter user in Japanese, if you're worried about the coronavirus, you should just refuse all customers. True. Doesn't want to serve those disgusting gaijin. I can't read that. Alright, Google Translate, save me. Yeah. True, entirely true. Gee. Oh, wait. The power of Google Translate, my folks. You can't figure Linux out. What the hell? It's easy. Just Google. Oh, wait. Poop. Okay. The station attendant in the booth beside the automatic ticket gates had a dour expression on his face, and vaguely turbulent tranquility filled the air. In other words, it was an ordinary day in the city. The spectacle from last night was nowhere to be seen. I spy Pixiv tabs. I didn't have any Pixiv tabs. I didn't have any Pixiv tabs open. At least I'm sure. I don't think so. I mean, I do have Pixiv Premium, but you know. I was about to cancel, but then it was that day I decided to cancel was the same day that my resubscription went active. I'm like, God damn it. It was probably Don Bodu. Maybe, I don't know. Close. I'm just checking one last thing. Or we go back in. What's up, BA? Huh. Finally caught his breath. The temporary sense of security brought his feet to a halt, and he nervously turned around. Of course, there was nobody chasing him. Now thinking about it, the reason he had started running had been far too flimsy. To begin with, he hadn't even seen that person's face well enough to know what they looked like. He slapped himself in the cheeks to pull himself together, then went downstairs to the platform. Unfortunately, the train wouldn't alight for another 10 minutes, so he quietly found a chair and sat down. There was no point in making a scene here. He took another deep breath. The platform was crowded with people waiting for the train, just like he was. There was no sign of any sort of someone chasing him. I guess it was just my imagination. His turbid thoughts finally began to settle. But as the tension drained from his shoulders, it was replaced with a surprisingly heavy weight. I know I'm tired. This is my body, after all. He sighed. His fatigue was worse than he expected. Finish the shop. Okay, not the Mana Prism in NA, and I'm doing the Raycoms for servants I have. Okay, nice. Life since coming down from the mountains has certainly been tough, but when he sat down like this and looked back on it, it hadn't been unbearable. Physically, he was fine. The problem was his mind. This place and the mountains had almost nothing in common. Recognizing the differences and adapting to them was incredibly difficult. Of course, adapting was simple. Human beings were that sort of creature by nature. Not without any particular effort, and the process would happen on its own. Even without any particular effort. Sorry. So the hardest part was probably the recognition. Why can't anything be easy? Finally gave voice to the complaints he kept bottled up for so long. Truthfully, even taking a stroll around town was still unnerving. Things that people in the city took for granted were all unknown to him. Was it any wonder that he would eventually get worn down after being astonished by every little thing time and time again? Yeah, it's not my body that's tired. That's why I saw that illusion. He muttered to himself, then shook his head. What was. That's the way of the world. No matter what Tobimaru said, he knew that what he'd seen is real. Compared to the mountains, this place was magical. In which case, it wouldn't be strange if people who could really use magic were living here in secret. Just thinking about it made his legs start to quiver. After a while, he realized it was from fear. The last time he felt this way when he found himself face to face with a wild bear as a child. Except that wasn't the same thing at all, was it? Back then, I nearly screamed my head off. Reminiscing about his outrageous childhood trauma, he couldn't help but craft a smile. Certainly anyone would faint if a 2-meter tall beast lumbered out from nowhere and started roaring at them. The wild animals in the mountains were so terrifying that they made the giant monster in the movie he had seen just a couple days ago seem like a harmless stuffed animal. If he could live through that, he was sure he could endure anything the city had to throw at him. Right, so then, the problem is that what they said at the very end, what do they mean by get rid of him? We took it at face value, then it was exactly what it sounded like. But the implications of that were so unsettling it was hard to seriously consider it. Surely he had simply heard them wrong, or perhaps they had been misspoken. The rules of the city. Someone will come to punish me. Huh. Even though he said himself, it seemed like somebody else's problem. He wished he could just write it off as a dream. He sighed and closed his eyes, and his vision went black and he mentally shelved the scene from before. From now he decided to forget about what happened last night. When he opened his eyes, his breathing had settled down. So, what happened after you tried to hit Aozaki Tobimaru? For some reason, that question suddenly sprang up in his mind. Resolving to ask about it next time, he just stood up just as the train arrived and trailed by a stream of light. Ugh. Okay. Let's go then. Chapter 3. That night. In short, this is what happened yesterday. Hello? On moonless nights, you must never turn around. Hello? My enter key's not working. Yeah, my enter key's not working right now for some reason. Was it a precept or admonition? Long, long ago, when my current way of life was something I could never imagine in my I never could have imagined in my wildest dreams. One night, without warning, I was suddenly filled with a dread so profound it made me want to cry, and ran to my grandfather in his workshop. So it's Saoko talking. Softly, he put his hand on my head. His gentle smile was totally unlike the grandfather I knew. For the Red Death is watching you from behind. Rather than comforting me, he left me with those hopeless words and sent me home. That night, I definitely saw a shadow lurking behind me. Somebody watching me from afar, far away. Little by little, year by year, the distance shortened. Until finally, what had started as a tiny dot was so close I could feel it breathing down my neck. Of course, it was only a hallucination. Nobody was actually there. Nevertheless, the night it all started. What I felt at the time was, without a doubt, the indescribable dread of certain death. Choksi. Hi diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle. The cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed. How long ago was it? The hazy picture book like recollection buried deep within my distant childhood memories. Even now, on dark nights, my grandfather's foreboding words lingered in my ears. No matter how loudly the wind roared, no matter how entrancingly the girl beside me sang, I could never drown them out. They arrived. This is Alice, by the way, if you're here. Sorry. Oh yeah, you just left. Whoops. Rip. Beside me, Alice spoke. Her inflectionless voice marked her as a bystander to the night's proceedings. Yes, I know. I remember. Yes, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Yes, I know that one. Aside from us, the park was totally deserted. We'd all come here to celebrate the birth of a new me. Though I had to say, it wasn't the most inviting night for my new big debut. Thick, heavy clouds blocked the stars like a black umbrella, carried along by a strong wind that tore the sky. The hands on the clock in the center of the park pointed straight up as it reached the moon. Too bad for them, there was no reason to reach tonight. The ferocity of the winter air grew with each passing moment. Every breath I took made me feel like I was being frozen from the inside out. The chill sank into my bones, ran up my spine, and stabbed straight into my brain, so that my mind wouldn't be numbed, so that my fingers wouldn't turn to stone. I stoked a fire with my heartbeat and emotions. I'll transfer the tactile response over to you. How fortunate. In that position, the will-o-wisp will be... The will-o-the-wisp will ignite. I answered Alice with a nod. Right then, just for a moment, I could see the ground. My legs were trembling weakly. It was probably just the cold, but I couldn't be sure. It could just as easily be fear. I sighed. If my emotions were working, that meant I was still human. I don't have time to wallow in sentimentality, though. Before the input from the barrier began to flow into me from Alice. An invisible wall covering the entire park. An imperceptible carpet reared deep underground. In Alice's rhymes, a mother goose ringing through the night. My body became one with those sensations. It's kind of a little bit laggy for me. I don't know why. My right arm broke out in goosebumps. Someone had invaded it. The prickling sensation crawled up my arm like ants, slowly but surely aiming for my heart. Squashing the urge to brush it away, I waited for a mere decisive position, a more definitive opportunity. A moonless night. The dim street lights in the park did little to pierce the darkness. The ants stopped their march, far, far away from my right arm, near the very center of my being. Even without my eyes, I could see the invader lurking in the darkness. Dude, the soundtrack, man. Roughly 30 paces behind me to the right, the figure crawling through the brushes on all fours raised its right hand as if to beckon me in. It's a gaming laptop. Let me see. Let's see how much CPU it's actually using. Oh, that might be it. Oh, holy shit. Oh, that might be why. It's not that it's a potato, but you... Okay, so... Hime. You know Chrome is taking up like 4.7 gigabytes of RAM? I love Chrome, Cap. Here we'll cross Chrome. There. I felt the enemy's movements almost as soon as they happened. My body spun around. Oh, Jesus. An arm raised toward me like a spear. Woo! And the high-speed, lethal weapon fired at the back of my head. Sliced harmlessly through my hair. Thanks to the omniscient view of the park granted by Alice's barrier, I was able to barely dodge it. The savagery of the attack blew my hair back. A small, sharp pain ran across my cheek. I could swear that death had touched my soul. I switched the blood flow within me to a different cycle. My blood, circulating at a meter per second, transformed into the imaginary element. It's a CE. My heart became a completely different engine, using my entire body as a circuit. It was an unknowable motion that couldn't be measured in terms of heat or calories. The mystery still beyond the grasp of man that made me what I am today. The fire of life behind every miracle and fable. We Magi call it magical energy. Set. I turned and locked on the enemy and raised my arm. It was the executor of my will. Because I was still inexperienced, I can only activate magecraft with words and gestures. Formulas had been inscribed throughout the park and advanced. All I had to do was add the fuel. Just pouring in the magical energy generated within my body was enough. Generally speaking, Magi were conduits. Didn't matter if the connection was wired or wireless, as long as it injected magical energy into the formula. Releasing, shooting, pouring, every Magus did it differently. But in my case, it was the feeling of snapping my limbs. It was this feeling of snapping my limbs. Ooh, that must hurt. Burn! It's kind of laggy. Not sure if you can see it. I countered speed with speed. The enemy was engulfed. They didn't even have time to retract their arm. Considering we were in the park at night, I couldn't help but be reminded of a campfire that the shadow writhing in the flames was undeniably a human. The fire vanished as unnaturally as it appeared. The sound and stench of burning faded away. Here, I'll check the corpse, so you take the barrier. I spoke to Alice, then started walking toward the now motionless figure lying on the ground. I killed them. I killed them. I killed them. Even if they were the enemy, I still stole away a person's life. My throat was parched. It didn't feel real. I knew I couldn't swallow away the hard, bitter truth of what I'd done, but I tried anyway. I was surprisingly calm. My heart was pounding, and my breath was ragged, but my mind was crystal clear. Before I knew it, the pile of cinders was at my feet. I stared at it warily, half expecting to spring to life and attack again. Thankfully, everything seemed to be in order. They had completely burned to ash. Something wasn't right. Just glancing at them, the remains felt strangely inorganic. My heart sank. Gingerly, I felt the figure's head in. It's a doll. What greeted me was the white, featureless face of a mannequin. Yeah, see, it was the arm definitely looked like a not human. It was like a doll. Shit, they got us again. I kicked the mannequin and screamed. Ash danced in the wind as the corpse disintegrated. But then it wasn't really a corpse at all, was it? It was just a puppet. Or a carefully laid out trap had once again come up empty. Or carefully laid out trap. In other words, my first true battle was still yet to come. Ugh. At this rate, I'll never be a real... Huh? Just then, something familiar caught my eye. The shadow of the slide just a little ways away was strange, as if it was being puffed by something that shouldn't be there. Maybe I was still caught up in the heat of the battle, because it took me a second to realize what that extra shadow was. Who's there? Calling out was a mistake. As soon as he heard my voice, the person wearing that all too familiar high school uniform merely jumped out of his skin, turned around, and took off running at an unbelievable pace. I wonder who that is. Totally not our third protagonist, right? Exactly like Shiro watching Rin's fight. I don't know why my enter key's not working right now. It was like he was running for his life. Or rather, that's exactly what he was doing. Catch him, we've been seen. I spoke hastily to Alice. But she hadn't even noticed the other presence in the park. That said, I didn't even make a move either. As embarrassing as it was to admit, the battle just now had left me unable to run. No, he's getting away. If we don't get rid of him, then there was no room for elegance. For us, being seen here was a matter of life and death. Wait, you... I took off the numbness in my legs and dashed after him. It really was a magnificent escape. The witness melted into the darkness of the residential district without a trace. Damn it, why didn't the barrier pick him up? I vented my frustration to nobody in particular. He was gone. There was nothing I could do about it. I gave up the chase, cursing my own ineptitude. Though it was only temporary, right now the park was Alice's forest. Inside, people's faces and voices became hazy, indistinct, like the plot of a fairy tale. He might have seen everything that happened here, but there's no way he could have recognized me or Alice, in which case there was still time to act. It was a boy. I walked back to the park. He'd definitely been wearing my high school's uniform. As far as clues went, there was more than enough if he wanted to. If he was one of my students, there was no shortage of methods at my disposal to find him. Oh shit. Still, why doesn't this sort of stuff keep happening to me? Grumbling aside, I knew what had to be done. First things first, I needed to track down the witness and silence him before he had a chance to go around spreading weird rumors. Quickly. Ruthlessly. When I raised my head, Alice was there. We were both in the same boat, being found out as magi. But even so. This was a real mess, huh? She stared out into the darkness indifferently. Her lack of emotion went beyond mere level-headedness. It was like she was made of stone. It seriously pissed me off. Her monotonous voice suited this moonless night so well it made me want to scream. Wait, that was the entire chapter? Wait, that was so short. That was the entire chapter? What? Oh my god, that was the entire chapter. Aozaki Aoko. And then... This might be a little sudden, but I'm a witch. I thought you meant a bitch, but you know. But I'm a bitch! Oh, now enter key's working. As for what that means, well, how should I put it? Basically, imagine those guys from fairy tales who conjure up miracles with the point of a finger and hide themselves away in secluded forests. The reality is a bit different, but I think that gets the point across well enough. Though, just to be clear, I don't fly around in the sky on a broom. I can't transform into an animal and talk to birds. Modern magi are anything so fanciful. Preposterous yet practical. Seemingly almighty yet actually quite constrained. I don't mean to brag while I'm still so inexperienced, but my true occupation is something romantic like that. Of course, it's a secret. Magi must always conceal their works. That's the first of the association's 10 commandments, and the most important. Even if it wasn't, it's not like I had any intention of talking openly about something so incomprehensible. It might be a charade, but I still have a reputation as an honor student to uphold. Nothing good would come from people finding out about my other life, just more headaches. That's why I do everything in my power to keep it under wraps. Although it's only because I haven't accomplished anything yet. Someday, when I've come into my own, it might be nice to reveal my life secret to a single special person. Yeah, getting to casually drop a bomb like, yeah, actually, I'm a witch, is an epitome of cool. It's enough to make me want to protect my secrets, simply for the sake of that moment, regardless of what the association has to say about it. When I told that to my grandfather, he patted me on the head. I don't know if he was praising me or scolding me, but his touch was gentle. It was decided that I would succeed him the day I graduated from middle school. He pulled me aside as soon as I got home. Your sister left on a trip. As of today, you are the Aozaki heir. His words were utterly indifferent. Well, I knew that my family passed down some stuffy old things like magecraft. I honestly never dreamed that the burden of inheriting it would fall to me. Traditionally, magecraft is only taught to the eldest child. Jumping through all the hoops required to become a so-called magician was my older sister's role, not mine. The plans I had laid out, the hopes I had for the future, they were all exceedingly normal. Oh yeah, she is the younger sister. So technically, she shouldn't have learned it. It might not have been fair to my sister, but I was going to live my life the way I wanted. Or so I thought, until she hit me with that ridiculous counterattack. Jebaited. After that, I plunged headfirst into a world I had only ever glimpsed from the sidelines. It was an unbelievable high school debut. Though I suppose as far as fresh starts go, it wasn't so bad. A lot of things happened between then and now, and there are still a lot of things I'm not used to. It's hard to believe it's almost been 2 years. I'm just glad I didn't have to deal with anything so difficult yet. I mean, sure, there was that time my roommate and I had spent 6 months trying to kill each other, but who's counting? Plus, my talent as a magician is apparently pretty amazing, in its own way, so I haven't had any problems from that front either. I had my share of headaches, of course, but that's just part of being human. I never once felt uneasy about the future. Everything should be smooth sailing from here on out. If only it weren't for last night. Well, Alice confronted Alco as soon as she stepped through the door. Though her voice lacked even the slightest sense of urgency or crisis, her dark crystalline eyes clearly communicated the gravity of the situation. Alco stripped out of her drab coat, put on a hanger, and plopped down on the sofa across from her. First, how is your side of the investigation going? Not good. Lately, I've been using these guys nonstop and haven't had time to make more, so there's only 7 left. She glanced away toward the box thing on the table. And none of them were out scouting yesterday. I thought the reconnaissance of the town was supposed to be perfect. That's only during the daytime. It's dangerous flying at night, you know. Akko sighed, so they're useless when it counts, huh? What about you? You seem pretty sure of yourself this morning. Oh, everything's going just fine on my end. I think I'll know who it was by tomorrow. I had Toby Morrow cross-reference all the students' addresses and schedules. It's rare for anyone to be so loitering around the park at that hour, so I thought it'd be simple to deduce his identity. Is it really that easy? Of course, my position in the student council isn't just for show. I've been collecting information on everybody at school. Where they work, where their friends live, even how they prioritize their activities. It's a list I'd hoped I'd never have to show to anybody. But we don't have that kind of luxury right now. And that's why I handed it over to the vice president. He's good at this sort of thing. Incidentally, the preparation of that top secret file began after Aoko became the student council president. The mere rumor of his existence was enough to strike fear into the entire student body. Jesus Christ. Stalker EX. I see, you're as thorough as always. Alice was only a little surprised. They had lived together for close to 2 years now. She knew as well as anybody that once Aoko decided to do something, she didn't do it halfway. Well, even I never imagined it would be come in handy at a time like this. I guess it's true what they say, better safe than sorry. So what happened last night was an exceptional among exceptions. By all rights, the entire situation should have been impossible. More importantly, I figured out what went wrong. Don't tell me you messed up somehow. Aoko glared pointedly. Putting the finishing touches on the barrier had been Alice's responsibility, so if that was the cause of last night's trouble, they needed to determine which one of them was to blame. They may have been roommates and partners, but that was merely an arrangement of convenience. Though they had been brought up together by birth, they were more akin to enemies than allies. In the end, Aozaki Aoko and Konji Alice were simply incompatible. Striking at every blunder, attacking at every opening. If the opportunity presented itself, they would both try to kill each other as naturally as breathing. Alice met Aoko's withering gaze head-on. Those fierce eyes could make a grown man cower, but she didn't even flinch. Suppose you're right and the barrier was the problem. In that case, this situation would have happened countless times before now, yes? I guess so, Aoko nodded. She only asked as a formality anyway. She trusted Alice. So then the barrier was perfect? If you're asking for a guarantee, that's impossible, but it should have been fine. Alice answered flatly, like she always did. Essentially, a barrier is like a closed-off world. It refers to the isolation of an area from the outside via some method. There are some various types ranging from physical barriers that actually shut away the closed space behind a wall to perpetual barriers that conceal the situation within them, usually mirrors, mist, or trees. However, the cost of closing off the inside is the creation of an abnormality on the outside. Even if a place is forbidden, it is impossible to cover up the fact that it is forbidden. At some point, somebody is bound to come along with the interest in the forbidden place itself, even without being able to see what's going on inside. In other words, it's putting the cart before the horse. A true, superior barrier would be one that cannot be detected from the outside at all, but at the same time allows no outside interference. It is exactly the sort of ideal barrier that Konji Alice had erected over the park the night before. Even if somebody had business somewhere, they wouldn't go in if you make them think they won't. It does take a lot of time and effort to surround a place you want to hide with a temporary consciousness falsification barrier, but when it comes to keeping people away for an hour or so, it's extremely reliable. On top of it, it was a first-class good using. It was a first-class good using your mirror. So it's not like it would break halfway through. I'm sure the only thing I felt enter was that puppet. If that's not perfect, then what is? I don't get it either. There weren't any mistakes in the creation of the forest. I cultivated it for several days, so it should have been just as dependable as ever. But I suppose it's been possible I missed something. Arias said it absolutely was not possible. Said it absolutely was not possible. Damn, in this case our best bet is that witness was also the puppeteer. I can also believe that. At least it makes sense that a magus would be able to break through the barrier. The real problem is how he was able to do it without being detected. The thought of being hunted by someone like that was horrifying. If he could slip through Alice's barrier just using magecraft, that means he was even more powerful than her. As she was right now, Aozaki Aoko would absolutely be powerless against such an opponent. I've always ruled out the possibility He was an outsider, setting the Starlings aside. Even Robin wasn't able to follow him, and there were any traces of magical energy. There's no chance he was an innocent victim being manipulated by magecraft. The hell's Robin? Alko's fleeting hope crumbled. Fine, she was done asking questions. Nothing to do but chalk it up to bad luck and move on. Getting out as a magus, letting the witness escape. Not exactly the sort of problems a normal high schooler has to deal with, huh? She slumped back into the sofa and looked skyward. Sadly, her gaze was met by a brown ceiling. This sucks. She thought, sinking deeper and deeper in depression. Alko pulled herself together. Her roommate's indifferent voice buzzed in her ears, but she ignored it and kept staring vacantly at the wood above. Or, if you're not up to it, I can always handle it myself. Cold words from a cold girl. Alko took them in slowly and without as much sincerity as she could muster. It was like swallowing molten lead. That's right, I had already made my decision. Of course, that was a lie. This time and last time were clearly different. What she had to do might be the same, but her target wasn't. Before, her resolution had been that of a magus. She would take on all challenges and defeat any that dared show themselves before her. When both parties were magi, the fault fell on the instigator. Even if the conclusion amounted to little more than murder, there was at least mutual consent. It was a simple matter of kill or be killed. Morality didn't factor in at all. However, that wasn't the case now. The opponent this time was not an enemy, nor was he a magus. While she may be prepared to kill, he almost certainly was not prepared to die. That's why I was wrong. Could she really bear the burden of slaughtering the innocent? Could she accept that for magus? Such things came naturally and often? As if, she laughed sardonically. It wasn't like she was some Uber's mech that could sever her ties to society just because she was a magus. She hated doing things without conviction or understanding. When she acted, it was only after reaching a decision for herself. When you put it like that, I guess my hands are tied. With those candid words, she sat up from the sofa. It seemed she had quite enough of the ceiling and was back to her usual self. In that case, take this. As a reward, Alice produced a small bottle roughly the size of her palm. It was a shabby-looking thing, totally out of place in her slender fingers. The glass was clouded, the contents were empty, and there was a bit of gunk left over from where the label had been forcibly removed. What is it? Alko squinted at the bottle suspiciously. There was something off about it. A storage vial. I only have one left, so I'm giving it to you. And? The name eludes me, but it's just like something in a Chinese novel. Somehow Alko was able to extract what she meant from the less than helpful explanation. You're saying that this is the red gourd from that story about two brothers guarding the lotus cave? This thing that I hate to say it looks like a medicine bottle with the label ripped off? What the hell does that even mean? Alice gazed at the bottle intensively. Certainly was very sophisticated. But it wasn't like she was the one that was going to use it. She sat on the table. It's more like the sword jade flask than the red gourd. That's not the issue here. What about my dignity as a magus? You shouldn't concern yourself over trivialities. Just be thankful it wasn't a bottle of laxatives. It was a fairly compelling argument. All you have to do is open the lid and ask him his name. But be careful, the bottle will break if he resists. Alko raised her eyebrows at that. Wait a minute, if he can't resist, that means I have to use it while he's sleeping, right? I never tried it. Are people who will answer questions in their sleep? Yes, actually, though I admit it's pretty rare. In which case, she would need to weaken him as much as possible until he was close to passing out. Alright, if you drug him or use magecraft, the bottle will overload and break, so be mindful of that too. Oh, Monka S. Useless, it's freaking useless. That really depends on you, doesn't it? Alice averted her eyes, as if to say she was tired of talking about it. You always did have that thing for those sort of trinkets. Is this another one of your hobbies? Alco asked, while silently wishing her roommate would dial it back a little. So it's kind of like a... What? So they're trying to like remove his memories or something? Or whatever? I suppose it is. At any rate, how about it? Are you going to take it or not? Silence then. Then after a brief moment of hesitation, she snatched the bottle off the table and put it in her pocket. Well, she thought she'd... I think it's like until chapter 7 or 8, yeah. I'm only on chapter 4. Well, she thought, never know when you might come in handy. I guess it's over. Oh, never mind. Trap him in the bottle. Oh. A few hours later at 9 o'clock, the conversation had moved from the parlor to the sunroom, where a scene was unfolding that seemed totally out of place in the Western-style mansion. Whoa, cooking! Seriously though, I didn't leave everything to Tobimaru because I wanted to. Cooking! A steaming earthenware pot sat on the table. Alco was grumbling nobody in particular as she plucked out for food from the chopsticks. Tonight they were having Japanese cuisine unbecoming of a European estate. This sort of hot pot cooking that didn't require any effort beyond buying the ingredients to prepare was mainly handled by Alco. Across from her, Alice prodded silently at her stew with her fork. It's like nabe. It's all because that jerk Yamashiro showed up spouting some nonsense like, Shizuki still hasn't joined any clubs. Take care of that for me, will you? In the end, I didn't have the energy to go out, to go over the activity of every single student, too. The egg she'd taken was still snow white, so she put it back and reached for some fast-cooking shiratori noodles instead. Bitch. Anyway, I know that idiot is busy all the time with work. That's why I tried my hardest to find him a club with a captain that would treat him well and let him take it easy until spring. And what do I get? Not even a thank you. Hey, are you listening, Alice? Perhaps. Perhaps her mouth was full of food, but she merely nodded silently in response. Her expression said she wasn't interested at all and had absolutely no opinion on the matter, but at the very least it seemed she was paying attention. Satisfied, Alco nibbled on some hanpin. But what really gets me is how everyone keeps talking about how great he is. I mean, even Tobimaru is going on about it, of all people. He's not great, he's just a blockhead. Really, there must have been something wrong with him if he didn't get angry after what I said. She thought about what had happened in the student council room earlier. About how Sojiro had taken her one-sided abuse and left without so much as a whimper of protest. Just remembering his stupid smug face was enough to make her swallow the rest of her hanpin without chewing it. What is it I don't understand? His parting words had been eerily similar to the ones that had marked the end of her childhood. You understand, don't you, Alco? That you can continue on as yourself regardless, that takes incredible strength. It was probably been meant as praise. However, to her it seemed like a cruel evaluation. But the person who said it had done so with eyes full of pity. Well, whatever, it doesn't matter what that freakhead had to say anymore. So while it may have been the biggest delusion of her life, seeing the person she had respected more than anybody else make a face like that had shocked her young heart. Fight. Huh? The sudden introduction snapped out of her reverie. Sorry, I'd missed that. You said something about a fight? Alice nodded. I don't know who's more waifu, Aoko or Alice. We're never getting a collab for this game in FGO, man. Feels bad, man. That would actually require TW to put in work. I can't be sure from what you just told me, but sounds like you were trying to pick a fight with him. She bit into the last Tom pin. Her comment was entirely unexpected and frighteningly to the point. Where did that come from? I don't want anything to do with him. No way, not interested. Don't even like talking about him. Then why did you ring you up? Good question. Good question, Alice. She's not retarded. Well, you see, I was just reporting on today's investigation. That's all. Honestly, what other reason could there be? It wasn't until several hours later, until after she said goodnight and gone to bed, that Alko realized she had dug her own grave, climbed in, buried herself with her own 2 hands. It's fine, I don't really care. But Alko, are you sure you hate him? Alice ate her Odin in silence, as it was some sort of sacred rite. While outwardly she was indifferent as always, on the inside of a part of her was amused by how Alka was acting. However, Alka didn't even notice. Normally she would have seen through her roommate's game in a second, but right now her mind was clouded. I'm sure. Of course I'm sure. I keep telling you I can't stand him, don't I? Yes, but why? Huh? If you're asking for specifics, that's... She finally noticed the contradiction. Huh? That's right. There wasn't a single reason for the way she felt. Her instincts had simply told her that she and that country boy were totally incompatible the second she laid eyes on him. But why on earth was that? She hated irrational emotions and baseless assumptions more than anything. Well, obviously, if I hate him, there must be something, so... Cuz is hilarious. The more she talked about, the more flustered she became. Unfortunately, no matter how hard she looked, she couldn't find a reason to hate Sojiro. His lack of common sense wasn't his fault. It was a product of the environment he grew up in. Many things, he should be admired for trying so hard to adapt to civilized society. And though he was absent-minded, it didn't mean he was slow. If he seemed to be a step behind everyone else, it was only because his gentle nature compelled him to carefully consider everything he said and did before acting. Breaking it down objectively like this, the conclusion was clear. She did not want to admit it, but he really was a good guy that everybody said he was. Seriously. He seriously didn't have any faults? There were plenty of things wrong with that, so she decided to shelve it for the time being. Her chopsticks, which until now had been restlessly poking at the rolling Odin, froze. She was getting irritated. Her head swam with irrational hatred. Unable to accept it, she tried desperately to analyze Sojiro, but only succeeded in cornering herself further. Alice stared at her. I'm surprised. A small sigh. This isn't like you, Alko. That was the final blow. Alko felt the world fall out from under her. Oh shit, you riled the beast! Even after Alko thanked her for the meal and left, it was quite a while before she was able to stand up from her chair. You've awoken the beast. However, Alko wasn't one to lie around and mope forever just because she got knocked down. She quickly tidied up after dinner, surrendered the first bath to Alice, and went to the parlor. In Western houses, it was customary to keep the lights off where there are no people. So only the places with many illumination, with any illumination, were the parlor and the girls' bedrooms. The second floor was shrouded in darkness. She walked briskly through this long moonlit hallway before finally arriving at the deepest part of the east wing. I've decided. Sneak attacks just don't sit right with me. Had she been thinking the entire time? As soon as she entered her room, she made a definitive declaration. If I do this, I'm not going to hide. I'm going to face him head on and tell him exactly why he has to die. Oh shit. Oh shit. It was not a concession made out of pity. It was simply the standard by which she lived her life. Okay, now that's settled. After confirming her intentions, she made her way to the study next door. Let's see. Thursday shelf, Winter Solstice, Green Spine. Without hesitation, she pulled out a single volume from amongst the countless books. The introduction text she had brought with her from the Aozaki house were arranged in 6 categories across 6 shelves, each corresponding to the day of the week from Monday to Saturday. She had organized her collection based off the content, classification, use, and more or less memorized what was what. All of its knowledge was at her fingertips, ready to be drawn at a moment's notice. It was the very least she could do as long as the owner of this room. Still, no matter how much she puffed it up, at the end of the day, it was just a tiny study. The library in the annex was another beast altogether, an untamable one at that. If she couldn't find what she needed here, she would have no choice but to call Alice and head over there. Hopefully, it won't all come to that though. She placed a green, thickly bound book on her desk and sat down. It was a hard, sturdy desk, utterly devoid of human warmth. But not the sort of thing a teenage girl would normally treasure. But Alko rather liked its over-polished, bare-bones luxury. Carefully, she flipped through the pages of the withered tome before her. There's no way I can make a barrier like Alice's. I'll have to rely on the place itself to keep people away. Deep mountains, thick forests, a schoolhouse at night, places where, bearing extreme bad luck, nobody would come, even without using Minecraft, were best. A wall of thorns or magical fog, these sorts of circuitous methods are fine, but for cutting off a path of retreat, something flashier would be better. She turned on another page, wondering if she'd even be able to find an elementary formula that suited her tastes. It should go without saying that she was looking for a way to deal with this witness from last night. Magecraft was very versatile, but there are limits. What's up, Chiron? At its core, it was merely the manifestation of things that were already existed or occurred in reality, albeit with a slight disregard for time and materials required. Totally breaking the law of conservation of mass, but whatever. Phenomenon not of this universe were impossible to reproduce. Or matter. In short, it was the equivalent exchange that cut every possible corner. Taking what people had achieved and realizing it through the power of an individual. That was generally how it worked. Simply put, she could even summon an enormous lake to this mansion if she put her mind to it. However, bringing about something that did not exist in this world, no matter how small, was impermissible. For example, even if she was able to emit heat equivalent to the afterburner of an F-15 fighter jet, all that really meant was that the circuit called Aozaki Echo had temporarily become an input variable through use of a magical formula. The derived equivalency itself then became the result that could occur in reality. If it didn't, the formula would not be complete. The imaginary element known as magical energy was like a fiction that could slip past the order of things, but only at the moment of ignition. Giving form to that which did not exist, desecrating reality with fantasy, was something the universe did not tolerate. Sorry. Shit. Cynico, thanks for the tier 1 sub. Ero. What's up? We're currently on chapter 4 of Mahoyo. Just reading some nice visual novels instead of playing mobile games. Oof. Okay. That said, how did it go again? Ether can basically do anything, but it's fake at its core. Things created solely from magical energy will be treated as illusions and quickly disappear. So for a typical barrier like the Wall of Thorns, you should cultivate the thorns beforehand, then use magical energy to grow and strengthen them in a flash. Ultimately, magical energy is both a convenient fuel as well as the spark that triggers phenomenon. None of that matters. Imaginary elements are all well and good, but I can't do anything except to connect a basic circuit and process magical energy and shoot it out. She laughed and continued her search. Although the witness identity was unknown, if it was a student at her school, there were a number of pretexts she could use to draw him out. The problem was what to do after. It all comes down to accuracy, huh? If I can't end it in a single strike, there's a good chance he'll escape. Truthfully, she wasn't sure what she could pull off without Alice's support. Even so, she had flatly refused any help, saying that as long as her opponent was just a normal person, she should be able to handle it on her own. She may have lacked talent, but she still had her pride as a magus. Page after page flipped by in a steady rhythm. Then just like that, the gentle rustling stopped. Found it. Her lips curled ever so slightly into a smile. It was a straightforward and purely destructive formula that had been buried deep within the recesses of her mind. I just need to make a cage. After all, it's what you do on a hunt, right? Make sure your prey can't escape. Marking the page with a bookmark, she stood up and to take it back to her room. Just then, she felt someone's gaze on her. A cold-eyed girl was reflecting in the window. Alco calmly drank in the fact that this was her face now. She'd begun forming a plan to eliminate the witness. No, calling it a plan was generous. This was merely work. She would build a cage and then lure her prey into it. There was no such sugarcoating it. It was violence, plain and simple. Well then, Alice should be done soon. She suddenly made a trivial announcement as if trying to warm her own heart. It had been almost 20 minutes since she'd let Alice have the first bath. Of course, her roommate had always bathed quickly, so even 10 minutes probably wouldn't have been enough. Alice was the type of person who took no pleasure from bathing and merely saw it as a chore necessary for maintaining her body. She couldn't even appreciate the wonder of a hot spring resort, a fact which filled Alco with heartfelt pity. Good, the bathroom is empty, so the light's on in the parlor. It was strange for Alice to linger downstairs after a bath, unless she had something to discuss with she usually went back to her room. Alice, you in here? Alice nodded. She wasn't reading. Apparently she'd been waiting for her. So that's how it is, huh? Alice scratched her head. Was it lack of faith? Worry? Alice's expressions were too subtle, so it was hard to get a read on what she was thinking. I got a plan now. Want to hear it? I can tell what it is just by looking at your face. Still, I'm glad you stopped wavering. That's a bad habit, Alco. A small sigh. Alice rarely made a show of being disappointed. Yeah, but you should know I'm not going to resort to trickery. If I kill him, it's going to be fair and square, and only after I plainly explain the reason why. That way, there will be any hard feelings. Is that going to be a problem? I have no complaints. You're free to do as you wish. But you're worried about my aim, right? Don't worry, I was planning to compensate for that with the location. Since I can't do it like you, I was thinking of mainly making it physically inescapable. But any ideas? Alice thought about it for a moment. The finger touched lightly to her lips indicated that the question was to her liking. How about mirrors? With a realm of mirrors, you will imprison him forever. Oh, Jesus. You've got absolutely no common sense when it comes to stuff like this, do you? Or taste, for that matter, Alco frowned. It's exactly the sort of idea she should have expected from her roommate, the one that was totally useless to her. What she needed was a barrier she could repair herself, not some grand barrier on the verge of being magic. There was no way she could make something like that. If you don't like it, then think of something else. But whatever you do, don't bring a mirror. Yeah, you don't have to tell me that. But you know, the Hall of Mirrors just might work. A Hall of Mirrors just might work. She pushed herself up off the wall she'd been leaning against, a wicked smile on her face. Thank you, Alice. I think I might know what to do now. I guess it's true, it never hurts to ask for help. Alco left in high spirits. It wasn't clear what she was planning, but she seemed to think it was foolproof. Cheerful humming drifted from the direction of the bathroom. Over the past year and a half, the girl in black had learned one thing. Whenever Awazaki Alco was this happy, some unbelievable misfortune was sure to follow. You asking if it was really alright to leave everything to her? How long it had been in the parlor? A robin-like bird chirped merrily as it strutted over the furniture. True. Well, she did say she'd do it alone, so letting her handle it is the right thing to do from a standpoint of mutual trust. Then again, she raised her arm. twittering, the songbird perched itself on the lovingly outstretched finger. As much as it pains me to say it, trust and faith are two entirely different things. Her voiceless companion puffed out its stout breast in agreement. But of course, Aiko had no way of knowing these unsettling whispers. Spoilerino! Are things going to get interesting in this chapter? Or is it just going to be like, I'm planning to capture him in my cage? The next day, the sky was as cloudy as ever. The day's class had passed by uneventfully. Final exams were fast approaching, and winter break was close on their heels. Although it was currently under the yoke of strict regulations, Misaki High was by nature an easygoing place that valued the independence of its students above all else. The serious students could be as serious as they wished under the protection of the student council president, while the carefree students frittered away their after-school period as they pleased within the confines of personal responsibility, of course. That the most freewheeling student of all was himself, the vice president of the student council, was a testament to the school's particular brand of broad-mindedness. Yo, Aozaki! Tsukishi Tobimaru gleefully burst through the door of the second student council room, rumored to be used for all sorts of clandestine meetings and secret negotiations. Despite all appearances to the contrary, he was still the vice president, and the unfortunate soul tasked with carrying out the student council's dirty work. A single person was waiting within the cramped, narrow room. The student council president, Aozaki Aoko, sat up straight in her folding chair and glared at him from raising a ruckus. Ugh. Freezing useful. Why don't we buy a heater next time? She started chatting casually, refusing to buckle under her silent intimidation. Take a seat. You remember why you were here, right? Doesn't it get old being all business all the time? You gotta shoot the shit a little, liven things up. He shut the door and sat down. In his hand was a blue envelope. At times like this, it's better to avoid useless conversation. That's how the pros do it. I'm sure Wait, no. He started to agree with her, their sharp response, but stopped himself and finally shook his head. No matter how much time he loved freedom, he had no interest in pretending to be a spy. So did you finish the investigation? Yeah, I actually just wrapped up the last interview. The details are all in here, along with the file you gave me. He tossed the envelope onto the table. Good. Ako picked it up and started to skim over the documents inside. As she did, the world around her seemed to fade away. There's no exaggeration to say she had mastered the art of ignoring people. Hey. What? I've got a question. Then ask it already. An icy silence. Like, what is he planning to do with this? An icy silence set over the room. Ako flipped through the papers motionlessly. Across the table, Toyomaru stared at her indifferently. Do you enjoy making that sort of stuff? Like creepy spying on every student? Of course not. What's fun of making something you never get to use? Oh, good. Had he been convinced? He stood up, a gloomy look on his face. You'll see if you read it to the end, but I wasn't able to get any solid proof. Or rather, it looked like there weren't any students in that area the day before yesterday, though obviously I can't say for sure. He approached the door as if to say he was washing his hands of this. Oh, wait. Now that I think about it, there is one person that wasn't in your file. I guess even you wouldn't have time to finish looking into a mid-year transfer student, huh? No! Why would you tell her? No! You idiot, Tobimaru. Oh my... You idiot. You moron. Ako's ears perked up. Certainly the boy who just transferred here was outside the scope of her research. That's why I didn't investigate Soji. Well, knowing him, he was probably out late working, or at least that's what I'd think he'd have been. Think if he hadn't come with me to that ridiculous story about seeing a murder. Maybe he was at home having a nightmare. No, no. Why would you tell her this? You moron. This is exactly what she was looking for. Oh no. Tobimaru left as gleefully as he'd come. Nah, there's no H scene, sadly. Huh? At the same time, the papers Ako had been holding fell to the table. She didn't mean to do it, but for some reason, all the strength she had drained from her fingertips. No way. She tried telling herself she was just overthinking it. However, sudden unease remained. She knew that in situations like this, her instincts were usually correct. It's totally ridiculous. Even so, that didn't change what had to be done. Supposing that the witness was Tobimaru, she was sure she could kill him without hesitation. But if it was him... But... Just considering the possibility made her feel colder than any hypothetical. She buried her forehead in her hands and sank deep into thought. And then abruptly... Let us speak of choice, for you will always be faced with choices. A virtuous fool and a wicked sage. There is no way to save both. You must pick one or the other. That is the only freedom afforded to you. 2 years ago, Alco remembered the words her grandfather had spoken on the day she'd become his heir instead of her sister, and sighed. What a joke. The accuracy of her intuition made her laugh. Really? Why did she have to go and say it out loud? She stepped out into the hallway, locking the door to her student council room behind her. The fact that she was able to calmly greet the students passing by as if nothing had happened was as surprising as it was expected. The school was still bustling with activity. Even discounting those who were there for clubs, the campus was alive with the voices of students who had finished their business for the day and were getting ready to go home. The gray sky threatened to burst at any moment, but nobody seemed to mind. Mingling with the crowd, Alco made a beeline for the school gate. The students she passed along the way were engaged in spirited conversation, mostly about their plans for after school. It seemed they didn't want even a second of their precious afternoon to go to waste. While she couldn't understand their insatisfied desire for fun, she didn't look down on them, nor did she envy them. Until just 2 years ago, she had enjoyed that sort of freedom herself. Am I getting callous? She tried pulling her scarf tighter to give off an air of solitude, but she wasn't very good at it. In the first place, when somebody who was alone pretended that they were, that wasn't solitude at all, merely rejection. Yeah, that's what they say at least. There was a bigger commotion than usual at the gate, evidently due to the throng of boys loitering around it. They were huddled together, arguing fiercely amongst themselves about a girl standing in the street. Oh shit! That's a waifu. She was wearing a black cape. At first glance, it appeared to be a normal attire, but any resident of Misaki would know that underneath it was the uniform of a certain prestigious girls' academy. However, that girls' academy had no relation whatsoever with Misaki High School. It was an existence far removed from them both, physically and mentally. The majority of the girls who went there were forced to live in dorms, and it was rare to see them around town. Its name was the Dayan Academy for Girls, and though was known far and wide as a school for daughters of the elite, most had never so much as laid eyes on that uniform in real life. That alone would have been enough to send the boys into a frenzy, but to top it off, the girl herself was stunning. Her stance could only be described as cute. The way she waited without stirring an inch gave the impression of a meticulously crafted painting. If I had to sum up in a word, it would be lonely. Oh, for the love of... That's why the boys were skulking around here instead of going home. Alco barged to the gate in disgust. Except where she would normally continue down the hill, she crossed the street and headed straight for the girl standing on the roadside. What's with the student council president doing here? Damn it, don't tell me she's gonna chase her away. She wants to stand here, let her stand there. Stand there. More importantly, is that angel really gonna get chewed out? I don't really think that's just standing there near the gate is that big of a deal, though, even if she is a student from another school. Yeah, but Lady Alko is merciless. If she's not careful, she's gonna get slapped. Slapped, I tell you. Jeez. Behind her back, the boys were spouting out every little thing that popped into their heads. She didn't feel like turning around to shut them up, so she just kept walking, greeting the girl in front of her with an unenthusiastic wave. What is it, Alice? I already told you that there's nothing for you to see here. What? Of course, the shrieks ran out from the harmony behind the gate, but of course she ignored them. I came to check on you, you know what. But first, Alko. Do you, do something about these people? Do something about these people, sorry. Right, I'll get rid of them. Where Alice spoke softly, Alko's voice boomed loud and clear. It was after all a show for the benefit of the horde swarming behind the gate. And she's coming this way. Hey, stop pushing, you guys in the back, move it. I'm getting out of here. No, wait, doesn't it seem like that girl is a friend of the president's? Maybe you should get an introduction. We can get an spoken like a first-year newbie. You still don't know the horrors of the battlefield. Go ahead and dream if you want to, but it'll be the last one it'll ever have. True. Who the heck is Azaka? I may sound like an idiot here. Oh. With so many people crammed in one place, they tripped themselves over trying to escape. Well then, if I'm not mistaken, none of you have any club activities. Would you mind filling me in on why exactly you decided to gather here today instead of going home? Eek. Her face was full of contempt. Exams are right around the corner. If you're doing something useful, I'd love to hear it. Surely you aren't just standing around and leering at that poor girl over there because you're too gutless to talk to her, right? No, not one of them was brave enough to step forward and admit that. Yes, that was exactly right. Of course, if any of them had been, they wouldn't have been hiding behind the gate in the first place. Actually, I think I forgot something back in my classroom. If it was just going to end this way anyway, I should have fought to the death. Maybe you could borrow some binoculars from the astronomy club and head up to the roof. Why the hell would the astronomy club have binoculars? Isn't that more like birdwatching clubs, Allie? And then you hear the president shut them down last month. She said they had any time for admiring birds they should use to find girlfriends instead. Oh! Oof! Oof! Dude, she's a fucking savage. Right, get a girlfriend. Sorry, I'm going out the rear entrance today, Zaki. Shit, later, Prez. See you tomorrow. The boys scattered like beaten dogs, leaving behind nothing but charming quips. You seem to be enjoying yourself, Alko. Oh, you can tell? Akko responded to Alice's observation almost instantaneously. In fact, the students in Misaki High were all more or less agreeable people, and exchanges them were always amusing. So, if you've come all this way, I take it that it means you found something. Yes, I was able to identify the traces of the witness remaining on the barrier. I came here to confirm them. I see. How long have you been out here anyway? Since I got out of school. In other words, for almost an hour. For some adverse to the cold, standing in the same spot for so long must have been torture. Sorry for putting you through that. It's fine, I'm here because I want to be. As she spoke, her black eyes were scanning over the students passing through the gate. She had probably been observing them like this through the entire time she'd been here. You weren't even waiting for me, were you? Alice shook her head. The only reason she was still around was because she hadn't yet found the student that matched the traces that she recovered. If she had, she would have been gone home and been investigating his identity. Anyway, it was a total bust on my end. Alco relayed the final results to Tobimaru's investigation, but Alice said nothing. The conversation ended there, leaving little to do but enduring the freezing wind. The silent observation stretched on, seemingly without an end. Student after student passed through the gate, each greeted by a surprising sight of the student council president hanging out with a girl from Rain Academy as they left. After 20 minutes of this, Alco sighed and pushed along by cold and boredom. Hey Alice, why don't we stop by Ray May on the way home? What's up, gamer? Alco, she stole a quick glance at Alice's face. Ray May was the name of Alco's favorite tea house. Oh, tea! The tea! Monka S. It's all a tea. It was hard to say as she was criticizing Alco for failing to understand the situation or agreeing with her suggestion, but Alco's eyes shifted slightly. At the end of her gaze was... Oh, are you meeting somebody too, Aozaki? An unexpected voice pierced through the gaps in Alco's awareness. Oh no. Oh no. There's only one person with an easy, considerate way of speaking. Oh no. Just my luck. Turning her back to Alice, she looked sternly in the direction of the student who had just arrived. So what do you want today? She didn't even bother with a greeting. Her sullen gaze grew more hostile as she stared at Sojiro, but apparently he didn't notice. Oh, nothing. I'm actually on my way to meet the captain of the swimming team by the station. I thought I'd say thanks. By all rights, it was a baffling combination. Student club activities and thanks. For some reason, she had been expecting him to show up saying something stupid like that. When you say thanks, you're actually talking about payback, right? Though some strange stroke of luck, it seemed that Sojiro was still blissfully unaware that the word payback had another, darker meaning. I don't really get it, but it's nothing that important. It's just about how the swim team isn't very busy until summer. He was about to go on about how Alco had recommended it, but she cut him off with a bored look on her face. Don't mention it. I couldn't very well send someone a club member that never comes to meetings. So since there was a place that could accommodate even your busy schedule, I told you about it. That's all. Oh, I see. That way everyone wins. His admiration was so genuine, she lost the will to complain. Though in her book, having to go through all the trouble of finding a club that would suit him, working out the details with its captain would have been a very big loss indeed. Well, whatever the reason, you really helped me out. That's why I wanted to thank you. She started to bow, but Alco hastily interrupted him. Enough already. If you keep going, you're just gonna make me mad. Anyway, how do you like the swim team? Are you getting along with everybody? Her gaze, unusually so sharp, has become somehow awkward. The way she was acting like was making Sojiro uncomfortable, but since he couldn't pinpoint the source of his misgivings, he simply stated what he knew and shared the latest news. Oh, the swim team kicked me out. What? What? That's just hilarious. Alright, don't mind me, I'm gonna screen cap this. put in my Discord. My own personal Discord. Reeling from that unexpected bombshell, Akko unintentionally raised her voice. Actually, she looked like a human jack-in-the-box. It was such an absurd development that everything troubling her these past days was blown away in an instant. But, are you going to meet the captain right now? Yeah, but we're going to the heated pool in the Yashirogi. He answered her flustered protest with a nod. You're not making any sense. If things are going that well, why did they let you join? Didn't they let you join? Oh, that's probably because I can't swim. So that's your game, huh? She massaged the bridge of her nose. Shizuki, do you remember what I asked you yesterday about whether you prefer running or swimming? I'm sure my memory is correct, but I'll ask you just in case. You definitely answered swimming, right? That's because I've always wanted to learn how to swim, and I'm already pretty good at running. I see, she no longer had the strength to argue. From what I understand, there wouldn't be a problem if I was the first year. They trained me from the ground up. The problem is I'll be a third year in 3 months, and they can't afford to take me on a member that would only be dead weight. Luckily, the captain was nice enough to offer to give me swimming lessons anyway. He seemed happy, but there was hardly enough to move. That was hardly enough to move Alco. So basically, that means I pressured them into buying a defective product. I'm never gonna live this down. Wait. Shizuki, the captain of the swim team, is... She almost said a girl, but stopped herself mid-sentence. The moment she opened her mouth, she had a dreadful premonition that she was about to blurt out something weird. Fine, I understand how you feel. So could you do me a favor and get lost? I'm kind of tired of dealing with you as the last thing I need right now. Terimaru was saying the same thing, that he'd been unusually tired since yesterday. Did something happen? Just a little something, but it's fine. I think I got a handle on it just now. More importantly, how do I look to you? Do I really seem exhausted? Why had she asked such a thing? It was rare for her words to slip out of her mouth on impulse, but for no reason. Maybe she had simply decided to have at least one normal conversation with the boy, at least at the very end. Sojiro frowned his brow for a moment before a beaming smile spread over his normally vacant face. I don't think he looked tired at all. In fact, I'd say he looked energetic, like a wolf that's been forced to plow a field for ages and excited to finally be back on the hunt. It seemed like he was truly happy for her. Aoko brought out her hand up to her cheek, and almost without thinking. If what he was saying was true, that meant that right now she was grinning like an idiot. Naturally, there was no way she could have made a mistake like that. Anyway, thanks again. I'll see you tomorrow. He said goodbye and turned to leave. Apparently, he still wasn't comfortable with waving. But while his voice and face were clear and earnest, his arms never left his side. Wait, one more thing before you go. She called out to stop him. Her voice was icy, as if she was scolding herself for actually being halfway pleasant earlier. Yes? I'm going to ask you a purely hypothetical question. Suppose you're starving on the verge of death in front of you are 2 animals just as hungry as you are. You're given a gun and told you can only kill one of them. On the right is a lion, on the left a kitten. Which do you choose? It's entirely up to you. Asking him like a very logical, like philosophical question. It was something out of a fairy tale, cruel and preachy. There was no easy answer, and yet he answered easily. I don't think I'd kill either. After all, you said I can do as I like, right? We're all brothers and we're all brothers in hunger. He didn't even have to think about it. It was all truly an unbelievable, innocent response. You're gonna live for a long time, you know that? Really, you're probably the first person that's ever said that. So, it was an awful thing to say with a smile. What's that's supposed to mean? She regrets stopping him. If only she had quietly let him go, she would never had to fear all this. Shojiro plodded his way down the hill. He would doubtless be working late into the night again today. Only Aoko and Alice remained. The latter had been doing her best to blend in with the scenery. I swear, for a harmless country boy, you sure knows how to throw me off my game. She clenched her right hand to a fist as she spoke. The location wasn't terribly important, but if she didn't do something with her body, there was a very real chance that she would scream for reasons she didn't entirely understand. Was it him she reviled, or herself? Without putting into words, she would never know. Aoko, a soft voice behind her. She already knew what it was going to say. She had known for a while now. Ever since Alice, who had been watching so many students go by without so much as a moving a muscle, changed her expression when Sojiro appeared. You don't have to say it. It's him. He's the witness. She spoke as if she was talking about a stranger. The lion and the kitten. They each had their own pros and cons, but at the end of the day, she had been asking him to choose between two living beings different from himself. And in terms of risk, the lion was obviously more dangerous, but there was always the possibility that it would launch a final, desperate counterattack the instant the gun was pointed at it. Therefore, while those who choose to aim at the lion were courageous, at the same time the feeling of guilt from having a gun disappeared. After all, the opponent was a formidable beast, and even if that was nothing more than a convenient excuse on the part of humans, the sense of wrongdoing from using guns in such a situation was thin at best. Then what of the kitten? Unlike the lion, it was weak. But while it would certainly be easy to aim a gun was there anyone that would feel right about it? Even if it wasn't an even match from the start, it was just too outrageous. And for Aoko, the same outrageousness applied to Sojiro. I had a feeling it was him too, but when she had her premonition in the students' council room, she had made up her mind to simply accept it if it turned out to be true. With his parting words, that resolution faltered. This discomfort in her chest was not guilt. She couldn't stand Sojiro. She was weak and docile. So then what was the problem? He was a transfer student come from the country to live alone in the city. Unlike other people, almost nobody would notice if he disappeared. Killing him would be as simple as wringing a cat's neck. Really, it was so perfect, it was infuriating. How lucky could she get? She wanted to kick his ass for making it so easy. I can't believe it. I hate it. It isn't right. This isn't like me. Perhaps Alice could hear her muttering, standing so close behind her. She didn't choose to ignore it, and he had a cloth wrapped around his neck, commented on something entirely unrelated. The strangeness of it snapped Aiko back to reality. His neck? Yes, I wonder if he started wearing it when the swim team cut him. Alice pondered it seriously. Actually, now that I think about it, he's had it since I met him. It just doesn't stand out since he always keeps on his collar buttoned. It was a frivolous, meaningless conversation. Nothing would come of it, and yet it was exactly what Aoko needed. Thank you, Alice. I think I'm good now. Now I'm ready. We'll strike when the iron's hot and settle things before he can start any unfortunate rumors. She turned her back on the school gate and reinvigorated. First things first, you need to go back to the mansion and prepare for battle. Alright, when and where will you kill him? Even whispered, it wasn't the sort of thing that could be said in public. Normally it was Aoko's job to keep that dangerous part of Alice in check, but it seemed at the moment she was feeling fairly dangerous herself. Tonight, in a marvelous land of dreams. Instead of censure, a defiant laugh escaped her lips. It was strangely sweet, like the laugh of a girl meeting her lover. Damn. Like, how long are we talking? How long, like, hours wise? Is it like 10 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours? 5 hour long chapter? But yeah, it's been around 3 hours, so I'm probably gonna call it here, guys. So yeah, I will see you guys probably later tonight. We'll do the chapter. We'll do the new chapter, and yeah, I'm gonna take a chill here. So peace. Oh wait, let me just see if I can host someone playing FGO real quick. Fate ground order. Uh, is there anyone playing FGO that I recognize? Not really. So, yeah, I'm planning to call it here. Anyways, guys, I'll see you guys later tonight. We'll be streaming more of this game. Peace.